Unfamiliar.
Yeah, I don't. But Blowback is a podcast about the memory holding of the Iraq War, and H. John Benjamin does some skits for it, and it's very good.
Okay.
It is not a funny podcast. It is a very serious podcast that is one people should listen to because it's really informative and interesting. But the H. John Benjamin skits in it are very good.
Okay. Allison.
So I'm a big fan of the Wet Hot American Summer, which is now a franchise, which is great. But in it, he plays. His character has been expanded upon, but in the original movie, he voices a can of vegetables, and he is very good at it. So.
Yep, it is a very charismatic can of vegetables.
Yes.
That was going to be my answer too.
I just really love that movie. So.
Yep. And Alex.
I haven't really seen him in much outside of Archer and Bob's Burgers, but I do know that he was in The Adventures of Puss in Boots, so I'm gonna say that.
Okay. Okay. What was he in Puss in Boots?
Balthasar. Duh.
I
don't know that story well enough to know who that character is.
It's from the TV show.
He's another
Puss in Boots TV show.
Yeah,
he's from the Shrek expanded universe.
Does Antonio Banderas play Puss in Boots in the TV show?
I don't believe so.
Okay,
it's criminal.
I would believe it if he did, but that would be very funny.
No, it appears he is played by Eric Bauza.
Okay.
Well,
the reason I ask is because then why isn't there a fucking? You know what? Maybe there probably is. I was gonna say why isn't there a Shrek show, but there probably is, and I just don't know about it.
I don't think so.
It's just wild to me that Puss in Boots would get a TV show and not Shrek.
I mean, that's why Puss in Boots gets a TV show is because they're like, hey, we can't do a Shrek TV show. We got to save that.
You're right. It's like
how they hold that back.
Yeah, they won't do a Spider-Man show on.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a whole other thing, but they won't do a show about I don't know Doctor Strange on Disney Plus because he's too big.
You got to hold. So
they throw the scraps to Hawkeye and say, okay,
yeah, exactly. Puss in Boots is the Hawkeye of the SCU.
Yep.
That was a surprisingly uncontroversial statement.
I think it's fair.
It's not. You're not wrong.
Yeah. I think perhaps Antonio Banderas is less problematic than Jeremy Renner.
Probably.
Antonio Banderas should have an app.
I was gonna say that. I was like, does Antonio Banderas have an app though?
Antonio Banderas app. Well, I mean, Jeremy Renner doesn't either anymore. So
no, it's funny how much that app is going to follow Jeremy Renner for much longer than the app was in existence because my sibling and I were talking about it. We're like, hey, watching Hawkeye, and all I can think about is that Jeremy Renner app.
Antonio Banderas is 61.
Yeah,
it's younger than I would have thought. Actually,
he's been in a lot of movies.
Yeah, he's
love a good Antonio Banderas flick.
He's been around for quite a while.
We're gonna be like old and in like nursing homes, and we're gonna be that meme like, I remember when Jeremy Renner had an app. And
yeah.
Like, sure, grandma, sure, grandpa.
Oh, I thought you were going to say that, like, we're going to be in a nursing home and Antonio Banderas will still be around and still be hot, like, which I could still also believe.
No, he'll just be an NFT.
Oh,
like he will transfer his consciousness into an NFT.
That's Johnny Depp. That's Johnny Depp. That's Johnny Depp.
There's a movie about that. So what do you call it if it's like pre-biographical? It's pre-biographical.
You know what's very funny is I was
proto-biographical.
I literally I don't know why I spend time thinking about this. I don't normally do this, but for some reason I had a whole bit planned out for a way I thought a conversation in a group chat was going to go, where I was going to explain the documentary Transcendence and talk about how it was like a true story and it just hadn't happened yet. So it's very funny that managed to break its way into this podcast.
I love it.
Because I told someone I'm never gonna die, and then they didn't question me on it. I was prepared for them to question me on it, and then I was gonna go down my Transcendence rabbit hole.
They just accepted it as fact. They're like, okay.
I spent like 5 minutes thinking about how I was gonna frame it around the movie Transcendence, and then they never challenged me on it.
Pat's just like, everybody's just like, yeah, Pat's never gonna die. We accept this.
Fine. Okay.
Well. One time I convinced a friend in high school that the Tenacious D movie was actually started filming when Jack Black was a child, and the young Jack Black from the beginning of the movie was actually Jack Black.
I thought it was based on a true story, and I was like,
well, yeah, no, that's what I said. It was like it's actually based on like how they started the band. It's like,
oh my god,
it's Jack Black's life story, and I don't know why they believed me.
They should. I wish they would make another Tenacious D movie.
Kyle Gass, speaking of people who are older than you think.
Kyle Gass in one all-time Christmas classic, Elf. Weirdly,
yes,
he's actually the same age as Antonio Banderas.
Yeah,
61. That's how old's Jack Black?
It's around that
Black
age.
Is.
Let me tell you,
52.
Yeah, 52.
Oh wow, I thought he was older than that. Jack Black is his TikTok is just.
I love him. I love it.
He is very spry for such a large man. Like,
and he also looks these days like a lunatic
with his crazy
with his giant beard.
Hey, as someone with a big beard, also I respect it. I'm not being critical, but man, sometimes I see him on TikTok and I'm just like, you're just living life, man.
He's living his life to the exactly. It's like you gotta respect somebody living life to the fullest in the way that he is.
No, I think he and I have very similar opinions on personal appearance, which is look like the weirdo you want to, and so I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's speaking of looking like weirdos, Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon is full of weirdos, I think. I don't know, Allison, what do you think?
I mean, I guess sort of.
Not a bad way.
They're just, there's a very, it's a bunch of weirdos looking like the weirdos they want to look like, right?
I mean,
like Shovel Knight is just like a guy with a shovel. You got like the Plague Knight.
Yeah,
it's
Plague Knight. I have seen Plague Knight. Yeah. So yeah, I knew that Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon was coming out, but it kind of surprised me that release date. So I just kind of suddenly saw, Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon is out now, and so I've picked it up and I've been playing it. It's interesting because it's it's a different take on the Shovel Knight franchise, I guess it's now, where it's instead of being a instead of being a platformer, it's a puzzle game where you are it's like a puzzler but also a roguelite, where you can get items that improve your puzzling. So you go through these like little puzzle screens with falling creatures, and you have to navigate them and then also defeat enemies to get through them, and then also get money that you can use to buy items, and then it just kind of keeps going. I am not good at it, so I am not very far in the game because I decided to go through the very much the roguelite mode, because you can choose if you want to have it be more of that, or if you want it to be more of a being able to restart pretty easier than that. But it's very interesting because it's taking characters and enemies that from, or at least I know from the other existing Shovel Knight games, but then also putting it into a puzzle element. So, like, for example, the enemy types that you see are pretty common enemies from the Shovel Knight games. So you have to kind of navigate around them like you might, knowing how they move. Like, for example, they're the knights that are golden and have the shield, and once you attack them, they put their shield up, so you have to kind of navigate around them. So there's knowing the enemy types from playing Shovel Knight, it's is definitely beneficial, but it's also just not something you need to do. It's also interesting too because it as a mechanic, it does a thing where not unlike Super Hot, where basically if you move, then that moves things faster. Although enemies do move, if you're completely still. So it is kind of like a hybrid where things are always moving, but you can kind of speed it up or slow it down based off of doing your own actions. But yeah, it's an interesting game because it's just so completely different from the rest of the other things that I've played in the Shovel Knight franchise. But it's really, I think, does a good job in merging, my knowledge from the Shovel Knight franchise to a new type of game. I just need to, as you say, get good. So
as the kids say.
As the kids say, get good. But I've been really enjoying it, and it's just been kind of interesting to think about how this, little indie platformer has become its own kind of franchise, which has been kind of cool because I've been a fan of Shovel Knight for quite a while, and I think Yacht Club Games does a really good job. So it's nice to see that they've been, that they're willing to do interesting things with Shovel Knight as an IP. So I'll be interested to see if they do anything else with it, or what they do next.
So I'm looking at a video of the game here, and it looks like you can play as different characters, like different knights from the game.
Yeah. So far,
have you gotten to experience that?
Okay. Yeah, I've been playing adventure mode, and like I said, I'm not good, so I haven't locked that yet. But
you'll get there.
I will. Yeah. It's also, I think, one of those games though where it really, when you lose it, it does feel like it is genuinely your fault. So it does feel like it's there, there's nothing that feels cheap about it. Like the times that I lose pretty early on are, okay, I got a little greedy and I attacked when I should have been more defensive. So it's but I think it works really well, and it's so I'm just good time to be a Shovel Knight fan, I guess.
I think all times are good times to be Shovel Knight fans because they just put out content, like new expansion for Shovel Knight constantly. And I know
they're developer.
They've finished okay, we did all of the Shovel Knight DLC. Now we're going to make other stuff, but then they just put out another Shovel Knight game.
I really hope at some point a series clicks for me and I end up liking it because there's just so much you can do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, also with Treasure Trove, having bought it pretty early on, it's you just keep getting new stuff.
It's really cool that they continue to add value to it for sure.
Yeah. And so I think that it's really great. And also I personally really love the other campaigns in it, the other platforming ones too, like Spectre of Torment. The movement is just, I love that game a lot.
Yeah.
I actually never finished King of Cards, but it's that also added some new elements. So it's just, I need to also get good at Plague of Shadows because that it has some interesting movement as well. But I think those are just really cozy for me. So I don't know. It's nice to see, and Yacht Club has just generally been a cool developer. I know that they've when these games have been played at GDQ, they've shown up a little bit, or they've talked on to things. So
I met some of them at PAX pre-COVID in 2019, and they were really cool.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
And they were like, they were asking me if I had played Shovel Knight, and I was like, honestly, I've never been able to click with it, but it's not you guys' fault. It seems like really awesome, and I have a lot of friends that love it. And they were like, one of these days, something we release will get you. And I was like, I hope so, because it's all awesome stuff, and I would really like to be super into it.
Yeah,
That's why their next game is an open world space sim.
Yeah,
I would do it.
They just seem I've been a fan for quite a long time, so I think that's rad. And now they're also in the publishing world with the Cyber Shadow, which released earlier this year. What the fuck? 2021 has been a year. After a year, that was 2020.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's
fan.
Oh God. So I'm just a big fan, and I know that they have Shovel Knight Dig coming out, which I am like, that is going to be my jam. So, yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. Like, I don't think that Puzzle Dungeon is quite as indispensable for me as the earlier games in Shovel Knight. Like, if you haven't played Shovel Knight and you like platformers or 2D platformers, I would definitely recommend checking it out, because there's just quite a bit of good content there. But you know, if you already like Shovel Knight, then you should like Pocket Dungeon, and it's just, I think, an interesting little new thing that's come out.
All right. And I see you're...
Out of curiosity, which platform are you playing it on? Because I know it's out on a bunch of them, but it seems to me like this kind of game seems like it would be best on Switch. But
oh yeah, I'm playing it on Switch, and it's pretty perfect too. Because one of the things that's nice is that, as somebody that's not particularly good at it, the matches are very, very short, and you can restart them pretty quickly. So it is a pretty perfect game to just be able to go, okay, I've got 5 minutes. Let me pick it up and play for 5 minutes, and then put it down and go back to work or whatever. So it's, I think, you know, Shovel Knight's Yacht Club has had a good relationship with the Switch. For a while, their Spectre of Torment was just on, or it was first released on Switch, which and that was back like right when the Switch came out, and so that was like one of the first things I played on the Switch, was playing through Spectre of Torment. But I think that it makes sense on that platform. Yeah, you can play it on it's also on PC and PlayStation, but it feels like it's pretty perfect for the Switch as a platform.
Nice. All right. So with that, you're also on Switch.
Yeah.
I hear you're paying too much money to replay an N64 game.
Yeah, I mean, I already played it, so it's like, it's already there. Yeah, so Nintendo 64 on Switch. Other games are on there, and I've like when that expansion came out, I played not an insignificant amount of Yoshi's Story, which was pretty fun to revisit, because that was a childhood favorite of mine. But now I am playing through the original Paper Mario, yay! Which is on Switch now, and it was very, very exciting for me to have that come to Switch. So
I imagine it holds up.
Does it hold up? Oh, God, it really does. And I mean, I'm saying this as somebody that really loves Paper Mario, so take it with a grain of salt. But at the same time, I think it just holds up phenomenally, considering aesthetically it still looks really good. The writing is still really funny and really well done. The gameplay is still really solid. It's just I think it really holds up phenomenally well for being a Nintendo 64 game, which has, certain games on that have not held up as well as others. But I think it's really great, and it's certainly holding up. So I'm, should you pay the stupid amount of money to get access to that? Probably not. But if you like Paper Mario, it's fun to be in there, and it's just like one of the most nostalgic games for me ever to play. So it's just very, very fun to revisit and see these locations and these characters, and it's just really, really nice. So I love Paper Mario, and it's held up. So replaying it, I was wondering, okay, is this going to be one of those where I play it and I run around and go, this is kind of nice, but I think I am actually probably going to go and finish the whole thing, because it's just really, it's a really nice game. So it's man, Nintendo, hi, I'm sure you're listening to this.
Hey,
The Thousand Year Door.
hey, Nintendo.
This is Miyamoto's favorite podcast right here.
Miyamoto, The Thousand Year Door needs to get ported to the Switch, please. Thank you.
For $100 a year,
Listen,
you can play
joke.
Thousand Year Door on Nintendo Switch.
you joke, but I would do it. That is like my favorite game, so I'm like,
I bet there is a way to play it on Switch. It just involves doing some stuff to your Switch.
yeah. And I'm also somebody that stands by thinking that Super Paper Mario is really good, even though it's not really. It's the first big departure from the series, but I still think it's really excellent. But man, Thousand Year Door it is genuinely my favorite game of all time. So I would
surely they will re-release Thousand Year Door on its 20th anniversary.
When is that?
That's not for, it's 2004, so it's in, I guess that's in 3 years.
Yeah.
In like 2 years.
There will be.
Oh God, what is time anymore?
There's no way they're going to put Thousand Year Door out before that.
Do you think? I don't think it's reasonable to think they'll put it out for that.
Well, I'm saying if they're going to do it, that's when they would do it.
What I think actually is we'll have to wait till the next handheld for GameCube support on like whatever their online offering is.
Yeah, I think 2024 is a timeline for when
yes, I concur. I think 2024 probably makes the most sense for that. But who knows? World is a strange place right now, and maybe you won't even be able to buy an Xbox or a PlayStation by then. So who knows? Maybe there'll be no point.
I think perhaps for fans of classic Nintendo, the very best console you could get is a personal computer.
Mm-hmm.
Or Mister.
Yep. A Steam Deck.
Yeah.
At my parents' house, there's an Analog Pocket waiting for me.
That's awesome. I'm very happy for you.
It arrived, but I had it delivered to my parents' house because I pre-ordered it.
Yeah.
Who knows
before you move, right?
I was like, right. So I was like, who knows when this is gonna come? I'm gonna have it sent to my parents. But it's so I don't know when I'll get to play it, but I'll probably be bringing some Game Boy Advance games with me when I come to visit for Christmas to play. I
got some holiday gift cash, and there was a brief moment where I was like, maybe I'll just order an Analog Pocket, and then I saw the chip. Now they're 2023 is when you get your Analog Pocket if you order it today. So I was like, no, forget it, never mind.
I was talking to my dad about that, where I was like, listen, the fact that I got it now at all when I pre-ordered it in August 2020 is like, with this chip shortage,
amazing.
it's
Yeah.
kind of amazing.
Yeah, no, I'm very happy for you. I'm gonna save the money and put it towards Steam Deck when my reservation.
No, I think that's fair, and I'm excited for the Steam Deck to finally grace my
I'll
presence.
probably put Windows on it so I can do. Well, you don't even need to put Windows on it. You can just with their OS. I'm sure you can run emulators on it.
Oh,
I'm
like
sure.
I think RetroArch is on Steam now, so you can use
Yeah.
that.
I'm gonna use
But
that
it's,
for an emulation box.
Have any of you considered getting in a Mr. Multi-System?
No,
Nope.
absolutely not.
I can do all the stuff that I would want to do with it on a PC. Like I don't need the fidelity for the stuff that it does. I think those things are awesome. I'm glad that they make them and that there's a community around it, because I like watching other people mess with them, but it's not really. I think I would consider getting one if I had a dedicated room for games and I had a CRT in that room, so that I could really get the full experience of like having the higher fidelity hardware. I think that would be the
So
reason.
like the 700-pound Sony 55-inch CRT.
Yes. Yep.
Trinitron?
Yeah.
No, actually, it wouldn't be a huge tier. I would get one of those monitors that those like security monitors that people
Oh yeah,
want.
Yeah, some of those monitors are hot commodities now.
They're not very big, but they're the best for stuff.
You can kind of find them if you go to like what do you call it? The
You go to like a state sales,
like a Goodwill
shops and stuff. Yeah,
It's
because
interesting.
anytime.
Yeah, because I've definitely thought about my apartment's not big enough too, but I definitely have thought about getting a CRT so that I could hook up, like get another GameCube and hook it up. And man, it's interesting just how, for most people it's like, oh, it's this heavy thing that I need to get rid of, but for me, for people who like retro games, it's like, ooh, this is gotta get that CRT.
Gotta get that Hello Kitty CRT
the dream,
that all the Smash players want.
or the Shrek one.
Is the Shrek one also high quality? I just had a like flashback to the first time I saw a big TV, which was probably I would have been like, I don't know, 6 years old, and
like a rear projection.
Probably like it was like I had seen like the biggest TV I'd seen was like 32 inches or whatever, something like that, like square CRT, which is not like small at the time. But I was at like a neighbor's house and they had just like the biggest fucking CRT I had ever seen, at least at that time. Probably 55-inch or something ridiculous, and they were watching Ants. So that's like what I think like first big TV I saw is just like the Ant's face, which is disturbing. It was also the first time I had seen that movie, so I was like, I don't like this. This isn't Bug's Life.
What is this? Yeah.
Sylvester Stallone was in that movie.
I don't know if I've ever actually seen the entire thing.
I know
had a
that I
weird
did
cast.
eventually, but it's been so long,
I think Gene
and
Hackman
it's
was
not a
also in it.
movie that I feel like I need to revisit.
Woody Allen,
Yeah.
Sylvester
dear.
Stallone, Sharon Stone, Gene Hackman, isn't it? Danny Glover, Jennifer Lopez. What?
Danny Glover, really?
Yeah, Barbados. Yeah, so there's your Ants check-in.
Yeah, I'm reading about it now too. Anyways,
thanks for that check-in, Allison, and I'm
Yeah.
sure we'll be hearing more about Paper Mario in the weeks to come.
Allison's 2021 Game of the Year,
Yep.
Paper
Listen,
Mario on Switch.
you joke, but
My 2021 Game of the Year came out in 2008, so I'm not judging.
I'm trying to like what it's, but it doesn't matter.
It's
oh well, yeah.
it's iRacing.
Yeah, right. Well, we're not here to talk about iRacing. We're here to talk about
Unfortunately,
Unlike
want to, we
unlike
can.
past weeks, unlike past weeks, we are here to talk about. We have escaped the iRacing conversation. Escape
can't
from
have-
iRacing.
You can never escape iRacing, much like you can never escape from Tarkov, truly. It's because they wipe the servers every time there's a major patch. Yeah, I've played a lot of Escape from Tarkov. I've played more Escape from Tarkov this week than I've iRaced. And it's been fun. I've been to some crew of some people. Obviously Tarkov, one of the many games that we discuss here that has had some bullshit in its history. At least the only reason I'm cool with engaging with it at all is that the dude that said the worst bullshit there is long gone and has not worked there now for like 4 years. So still, though, it is a game about it's a game that hates you, which that's a genre that I'm a big fan of.
You're a sadist. You're like Miyazaki in that way. You want to be punched to death by a mushroom in the forest.
Yeah, it's like I'm like a gaming masochist.
Round in a giant pudding.
Yeah. Last night I was crawling through a resort and there was a hole in the ceiling above me, and I had spent like 10 minutes crawling around trying to find stuff, and then there was a guy upstairs and he just shot me in the head through the hole, and I died and lost all the stuff that I brought with me, and it was a waste of 10 minutes of time. That's just the way she goes in Tarkov. But I think
the way the cookie crumbles.
The thing that I'm learning this time out that I did not know before, and the reason I'm bringing it up at all, is because what has created the sickness in me this time is how that game is like, we say like mile wide, inch deep to describe a lot of things. That game is like a mile wide and a mile deep in a lot of ways.
R.I.P. We're never going to see Pat again.
It is so wild. I've been running around. I found a key. The key unlocks. No, like an actual key. The key unlocks a door in a resort on a map called Shoreline, because the way the Tarkov is structured is you are outfitting your character with stuff that you have in your inventory. So you're putting on like body armor and a helmet, and if you put on a headset, it makes it easier to hear footsteps. If you put on glasses, then you don't get as affected by flash grenades. You're picking a gun that you want. You're putting on a rig, which is like tactical vest kind of thing that has like holds your ammo and grenades and maybe a sidearm if you want to put the one in there for some reason. You got your backpack. Then you have your container, which is a very small container that you can save things between runs even if you die. So you can put stuff in the container if you die, and then you keep it if you die. So you're outfitting yourself. And then you're picking a map. There's like 5 of them currently, kind of a varying size, but generally they're comparable to, I guess they're smaller than Battle Royale maps because the player count's a lot smaller. There's only 12 people per Tarkov match, 12 PMC players. And then you're picking a time slot. There's usually one in the middle of the night and one in the daytime. So you can play if you want it at night or in the day. And then you're dropping in, and then you're running around the map, looting stuff, and then getting to an extraction point. And so like there's like extraction points all around the edges of the map and some in the middle, and wherever you drop in, it's going to give you a list of extraction points you can hit, usually on the other side of the map. So you have to like get across the map to get out. And you have like 30 minutes to do it. So like that's basic structure. But what I wasn't really clear on the last time I played it was that it's like also a fairly deep RPG. In that everything you do has skill points associated with it. So like running levels up your endurance and it makes you better at sprinting, and your stamina goes down slower.
Oh boy.
Shooting guns gives you better control over the guns so you can manage their recoil easier. Like treating your wounds with medicine, which is pretty complex because you can have like broken bones or light bleeds, heavy bleeds, different kinds of trauma.
So Metal Gear Solid 3.
Yes, definitely. In fact, so much so that like you're dragging specific medicines onto specific body parts in the interface. So just like Metal Gear Solid 3.
Sorry, specific medicines onto specific body parts. So does that mean in order to use it on your leg, it has to be a specific medicine, or you can use one medicine on any part of your body?
It's
Well,
you can generally use one medicine on any part of your body. The medicines are tied to different kinds of trauma.
it's like, so if you got like a burn, you can drag like burn ointment to your
Yep.
leg, or if you got a gunshot, you can drag like gauze or whatever.
Yeah,
Or
so
if you're like
Got it.
sore, you can like drag icy hot onto your balls and
Basically, yeah.
then even
Mhm.
debuff.
Got it.
And
It's things like I stepped on a mine and it broke my leg, so I was limping for a
yeah.
while. But then my friend had a splint
Broke-
on him, so he tossed me the
Broke your
splint,
leg. Yeah.
and then I was able to splint my leg, and it helped. Does not heal. Also, sometimes you're like, you'll take a bunch of damage, and even if you heal, it's not enough to like really heal you, because you just got like shot 4 times in the chest, and your guy's just like, ugh. Oh, like through the rest of the level, and it sounds
Hell yeah.
awful, and everybody else can hear it too. So anyway,
So you're just like a sitting duck. 'Cause people are like, oh, what's that? I hear that. I'm
And,
gonna
like-
go chase down this bleeding man.
you take yes, and your blood drops also. If you don't heal up enough, you leave a blood trail. But then, like on top of that, there's things like, and this is where it really started to get me. So I found a key. The key is for room 226 in the resort, east wing of the resort on the Shoreline map. So now I have to get there and get in that room and figure out what's in there. Like, it's like got really good loot in it. But if I die holding that key and I don't put it in my storage pouch that comes with me when I die, I lose the key. So I can keep it in there, but then if I manage to loot that room and I get all that good shit, I have to get out with it. Otherwise, if I die while I'm holding it, it's gone. Because you can insure your stuff, and then it'll come back to you the next day, like real time day, if a player didn't loot it. But if a player loots it off of you, then you're not going to get it back. To counteract that, you basically take garbage in when you're like a lower level player. You take like the most basic rifle, most basic armor, the most basic helmet, the most basic headset, and the most basic backpack. That way people don't give a shit about your stuff. So they might kill you, but they won't loot you. And then you can get it back with your insurance. So anyway, that has been a lot of fun. I've been playing with friends. The new thing that's notable, they had a big patch last Sunday and they wiped the servers, and they which is a good thing for that game, because basically it means that like it puts everybody on level playing again, and because of the nature of that game, it's fun to do the kind of grind again to level up and do the quests and stuff, because it's not really a narrative to it. It's just like people develop strategies for playing through that content faster and getting up to the higher levels and having like really good gear, and then there's the risk reward is like taking it in to fight people. So the new thing though, the big new thing with this patch, they added a new map, which is cool. It has like these crazy, there's NPC enemies in Tarkov, and you can play as an NPC enemy, basically, called scav runs, where every 20 minutes you can play as a scav, a player scav, and you spawn in with like random kind of garbage loot, and you like look like an AI enemy. And it's just a way to kind of play the game without risking your real stuff. And if you escape as a scav, you get to keep the stuff that they had on them and that you looted as a scav. But if you die, the scav's gone forever. So they added a new map with a new kind of like AI enemy that are like PMC AI. So they're really, really, really tough. So we've just kind of kept throwing ourselves at them and getting completely roasted, my friends and I. We also tried like playing with 5 people. That was a nightmare. Actually, you would think 5 people would be like, well, that means you have almost half of the PMCs in the map, so you must be able to roll everyone. But you spend so much time coordinating who's where, because there's full friendly fire and there's no name tags in that game at all. So you basically have to watch each other's. We put our streams on Discord so you can see the other person's point of view, and then just communicate. And playing with 5 people is just a cacophony of like, okay, well, I'm by the ambulance, I'm approaching the hood of the ambulance, I'm behind the gas station, I'm at the pumps, wait, is that you? Are you shoot? Don't shoot at me, I'm around the corner wall, there's shots coming around the wall, is that you? I'm trying to hit somebody and he's past the wall by the oil barrels. Well,
So-
that might actually be me. That might be me.
So
It's like
if,
just
when you get murdered in that game, does it tell you who murdered you?
yeah. It's
Oh,
super
okay, so
super.
there's no plausible deniability there.
No, at one point my
I
friend
mean,
came
there
around,
is, yeah.
my friend and I, we both came around a corner and
Gross.
I was like, who is that? And then he shot at me and I just dropped him. And then he was like, oh, that was me. I was like, okay, well, you shot first. You do get XP for killing your friends too. So, but yeah, it's rough with 5 people. And I think the sweet spot for that game is 3 people. Because then you have enough people you can flank and coordinate, but because there's no distinction, it's not like there's a duos mode or anything. When you queue, if you're solo, you could end up against a squad of 5 people. But you can try to make them kill each other, which is apparently not that hard. But the other crazy thing they added with this update is now there's in-game VoIP. There never was before, I guess. Okay. So now you can talk in game, which is most interesting. When you're playing as a PMC, you just do it to I actually have not heard anything truly offensive, which is surprising. But as a PMC, you just do it to taunt each other, like calling people shit lickers and stuff. But as a scav, it's interesting because when you play as a player scav, the NPC scavs don't attack you, and you're actually not supposed to kill them because you lose reputation then, because they're like a faction. And the idea is that you're kind of playing with them. And same thing is true for player scavs. You're not really supposed to kill each other. People still do it all the time. But now with voice chat, there's a lot of times when you're playing as a scav and you hear somebody else and you're like, well, I know this, I don't think there's a PMC. And so you'll like say like, hello. And then you hear, we were in this resort where I got killed before as scavs, my friend and I, and we heard somebody walking around and my friend was like, hello. The other person was like, yeah, what's up? And my friend was like, are you cool? And he was like, yeah, are you cool? And I was like, yeah, there are 2 of us, but we're cool. And he was like, okay, no worries, guys. And then in one map, we talked to some people, and then they totally fucking shot us in the back as we were walking away from them. And we were super pissed off. At one point, we ran into a group of 4 other player scavs, and we rolled as like a group of 6. And there were a couple of them role playing and like yelling a bunch, and it was really funny. And then we were like standing next to them, pointing our guns at them. And one of my friends in Discord was like, should we fucking kill them? We should fucking kill them. And I was like, there's 4 of them. There's no way we're going to be able to get out of this if we start shooting. And it leads to these like really fun social engineering situations, and without like needing quite the amount of buildup that something like a DayZ has. So it's been really fun. I've been enjoying it a lot.
Anyways, I started blasting.
Yeah.
Just drop a grenade and run. Like
it's
what are they gonna do?
It's interesting because it's a game that it's extraordinarily hard, and like most of the time you're getting disappointed when you go in. Like you die so much, but it also feels like it's not so much a game about like raw shooting skill. It doesn't, if you're good at shooters, that's helpful, but it feels so much like, even more than something like a PUBG, you need to have awareness of the game's systems and rules to understand how conflicts are going to break down. Because the shooting people part is kind of the easy part. It's more understanding like, how is the caliber of my weapon going to damage them? How are we going to compare based on what kind of gear I think they have and stuff. It's really cool. I'm going to continue to try to get into it.
As someone who played hundreds of hours of PUBG and made it to the top 50 of North America at one point, that sounds really appealing, because like that's kind of the thing for me, that like I tried Apex, I tried I don't know, a bunch of the battle royales, like I tried Fortnite, I tried all those things, and none of them really stuck with me like PUBG did. Because they all more went in the arcadey direction. Whereas like the more realistic direction was always more interesting, and this does sound like it's leaning further in that direction by I think a significant degree.
I think if you liked PUBG, you would like Tarkov, because it's what I like about it. in addition to all the stuff I just said, is I just appreciate, I'm kind of over battle royales because I'm so tired of the like dropping in and then needing to loot stuff, and like that loop got really exhausting to me. Tarkov is fun to me because it doesn't matter if you kill people or not. It's more about setting a goal for yourself with a raid and then trying to achieve it. Like, I know right now I have a quest where I need to get 3 of these specific kinds of med kits. So to me, it's more about like, I got to drop in, figure out where the med bags are, learn the maps to get them. The biggest barrier to entry at this point is that there's no in-game map. So you have to use a second monitor with a map on it. There are in-game maps you can buy, but they're like, they're not as useful as just having a map up on a second monitor. So learning the maps like by heart so I can just go through them is the thing I'm kind of focused on right now, and it's a little bit challenging, but yeah, it's a really good game. And you know, the fact that they haven't said anything stupid and controversial is probably just luck, because I'm guessing the people that make it are still probably fucking assholes. I don't know them, but it's been a very fun game to play. You just have to have a lot of tolerance for the fact that you're gonna, like, I have the base version of the game. You start with 500,000 rubles, and it costs about 50K to get outfitted for a raid, and insuring it costs another like 20K, and you die almost every time you go out. It's very rare that you have a successful raid. I played for like 2 hours last night, and I had one instance where I got out with a scav. And so you have to be willing to go. You'll start an evening at like 400K, and then your money will drop down to like 80,000 after a few hours of playing. But then, you know, we were like, okay, well, let's go to this one map. And I found 2 Game Boys. They call them Tetrises, in a shop, and selling those got me like 150K at the vendor.
Is the name Tetris not licensed or like
It's
copywritten?
TETRIZ in the game. Also,
like
they don't
rings.
fucking care. They don't fucking care. The headsets say 3M on them. I would bet money they do not have the 3M license.
Almost, yo.
They they just call the guns the real names in real life. And I'm 90% sure for most, they have the Russian licenses, like they've licensed with Kalashnikov, but I'm pretty positive they don't have the license to any of the American gun manufacturers, and they just put their guns in the game, which I say fuck them, because it's not like gun manufacturers in the US have any fucking, I don't give a shit if they're getting paid at all. I would prefer they didn't. So but I think Tarkov there's a lot of stuff in there that I think they just kind of are like,
they're kind of like, fuck it.
Yeah, like they have some fake brands, like I think it's Tarducks is like the Starbucks knockoff in there. So like they have some fake brands, because there's a
like
shopping
the
mall
fake
map.
brands that are most likely to sue, basically.
The most litigious ones. Whereas with a lot of like they're like, nobody at 3M is ever gonna hear back that our headsets say 3M on
or like or like really realistically, if a nerd at 3M saw that, they'd be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like 3M's not necessarily like, I don't know. They're not like similarly protective of their branding as like Starbucks.
Right. So yeah, it's that stuff is very silly, and I appreciate it. So yeah, I don't know. It's definitely would be probably up your alley if you're into PUBG and looking for something to scratch that itch, because that's definitely the thing that everyone that I know who's into it played a lot of PUBG and had myself included, had the exact experience you're describing, Alex, of like no other battle royale doing it quite the same way. And Tarkov is the thing that kind of works. And I think they usually do a year-end sale too, so it's probably available for cheap. It's only $40 like to start, but there is certainly a pay-to-win aspect with that game, where the different editions give you better shit to start with. So there's nothing you can do beyond buying the edition. There's no in-game microtransactions or anything you can pay for. And at the end of the day, the difference is pretty negligible there. So I don't think it's like a reason to not play it, but there are different editions, and the bigger editions you start with a couple better guns and a larger stash. So that's
like
that's
a mustache.
And
you start with a big fucking just like oh god, what's his name? Magnum PI.
No, one of
Burt Reynolds.
Yeah, no, not Burt Reynolds. What's his name? Magnum PI. I can't remember his name right now.
I'm like, oh my god, I hate that.
You mean yeah? Why can't I think of it now?
Oh no!
Damn.
Tom Selleck.
Tom Selleck. Thank you.
Tom Selleck, right?
That
okay.
was
Yeah.
that was.
I googled Magnum PI, and apparently there's a new Magnum PI series
Yeah.
from
Why?
2018. I
Don't
don't
worry about it.
because everything old is new again, Alex.
Yeah.
The only thing. Wait, was that? Yeah, it was on CBS. Okay, because watching Jeopardy with my parents is the only time that I see commercials for like network TV, and I'm like, what are they airing on network TV nowadays? I don't even know.
Young Sheldon, and that's it.
We
Bazinga.
my my
To a
my
halt.
parents. No, we just joke about there's the NBC show La Brea, which we keep seeing ads for every single time that we watch Jeopardy. Anyways,
I don't know what that is.
I don't know. My not good apparently, according to my dad who watched a couple episodes.
Well, Pat, if this isn't the polar opposite of Escape from Tarkov, I don't know what is.
So I'm going to talk about this extremely briefly because we've talked about this plenty, and I really want to talk about High Frontier for 10 minutes before we move on. But I also I don't know why I didn't know this or why like it was just a weird moment of like, oh, I guess I could be doing that in the background when I work out and when I'm. The other thing about Tarkov, sometimes the queues are like 10 minutes long, so that can
Doesn't
be
know
kind
anything
of a pain.
about cues.
Yeah.
Hear
So
about
my friend pointed out that you can catch all the Pokemon if you have a 3DS and a Switch.
Huh.
Like every single
Yep.
Pokemon is available in one way
Yep.
or another. Some of them you have to have the physical cartridge for the DS games. Like they're not on the eShop.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I was like, oh, so actually for the longest time I would just like kind of razz them about Pokemon because it was like, yeah, it's cool, but it's a pain in the ass that you can't just like catch them all on Switch. And he was like, well, if you have a 3DS, you can at least catch them all between the two. So I purchased Pokemon Blue on the Virtual Console and have been slowly just kind of like, catching Pokemon while I've been having
This
a
is-
That
spare 5
sounds
minutes
really
on that.
fun, and I kind of want to join you.
It's real nice. It's good. That game's good, turns out.
Oh
This-
no,
this
I
is
think,
not
yeah,
Oh,
Pokemon's
Blue's
good.
Great.
Yeah.
this is not that dissimilar from Tarkov if you think about each
No,
game
yeah,
being its own
yeah.
raid and you're just
Yeah,
going in and you're
exactly.
looting all the Pokemon.
Exactly.
and-
You're taking them all and imprisoning them. Yeah, no, it's been fun. I'm not that deep into it, but I did play like 2 hours over the last few days. About 40 minutes of that was sitting waiting in Tarkov queues. But yeah, it's been. And the other thing I didn't know about the 3DS that helps this too, I didn't know that you could just close it with Virtual Console games running, and then it would resume when you opened it back up. I thought that for the Virtual Console specifically, you had to restart the game. But the fact that it works that way makes it extremely easy to just like, I still save fairly frequently, but like you can just like shut it if there's, for example, once a queue pops, you can just shut it and then come back to it in a few minutes and you don't have to reboot the whole game.
Oh
So-
my god. In high school, there was like a period where a bunch of us were playing like Pokemon games on like DS. I think that this was about like the time the 3DS came out, but like, there were people on DS and whatever. And I was playing like a Game Boy Advance game. I was playing like Emerald on DS. And if you close the DS with a Game Boy game, it would not like sleep. It would just like keep going. But I didn't know that because I didn't have a DS until like, I don't know, like that like month or whatever. And so I was like alone in a room, like in like the audio room of the theater, and I was like, why do I hear Pokemon music? is it coming from this weird hole in the ground? And I was like, get close to the hole. And my 3DS was, or my DS was in my pocket. So I get closer to the hole. I'm like, I can hear the music louder. And then I'm like, I call a friend. I'm like, you have to fucking listen to this. There's Pokemon music coming from this weird hole in the ground. And then then he's like, oh my God. And then he calls in other people and they're like, what the fuck is going on here? Eventually later, I'm like, oh, it's just, I'm hearing it from my pocket. This room is not haunted with the sound of Pokemon.
It was your butt all along.
Not my butt, but closer to my dangle than my dongle, if you know what I mean.
No, I don't. Can you elaborate?
No, I will not.
Well, I'm not here to make some stand that I'm going to catch every Pokemon, because that would be a ridiculous thing to like promise. But it's a fun.
It's been
just have it hasn't even been a full week, so I can't even say that yet. But it's fun to like run around in the grass and catch a few Pokemon before bed. Also, the only other thing I have to say about Pokemon Blue is, compared to more modern games, the fact that they basically talk to you for 5 minutes and then they're like, all right, fucking go, man. I don't know. It's so good.
I love that.
I do love that.
That was the best part. Like playing that game as a kid with no guide or whatever. It's just like, this is a big world. I don't know how big this world is.
And
like,
it's
it seemed infinite.
It's actually fairly linear still. Yeah. But instead of it being linear the way that more modern Pokemon games can be, where it's like, well, now you got to go talk to this guy, and we really think you should go to this city. It's linear because they just put roadblocks in your path that you need HMs for. Yeah. So it feels a lot less. You don't feel as railroaded, even though you are being railroaded, and it's really smart. I wish that they. Yeah, it's unfortunate that, to me, I'm not trying to dunk on modern Pokemon games, but I really wish the last couple generations hadn't been as exposition heavy.
Yeah,
it would make it easier for me to get into them.
Because I think that it's a lot of the things that have made the games easier has been, for a lot of people, streamlining stuff that they didn't like, which is like the HMs, for example. You
XP
no
share
longer
and stuff.
Right. Whereas, like, I saw people talk about this where it's like, the reason the other older Pokemon games were harder was because, it didn't have any of the conveniences of the newer ones. So people just accepted that you'd need to do some level of grinding, for example, or, have to have the inconveniences of the HMs and everything. But I don't know. It's interesting because I think there is a way that you could have a balance of having it be both accessible, but also not have the 2 hours of bullshit at the start of the game.
I mean, Sword and Shield definitely is not as bad. Sun and Moon, I got past the beginning parts of Sword and Shield. Sun and Moon, I couldn't do it. I tried. I couldn't get past the dialogue shit. I spent like literally 3 hours and I still hadn't been like cut loose. And I was like, I'm not doing this.
I know, it's rough. And I think that there's definitely a middle ground that I don't think that they've quite found yet. And if they found it, I feel like they could like create a genuinely.
I at least think that they know that Sun and Moon suck. So, like, in that respect, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say I like the rest of Sun and Moon. But the start is like the slowest goddamn thing in the world, and it's like it doesn't. Man, I don't even mind necessarily the dialogue so much, but replaying, playing Brilliant Diamond, please don't make me sit through another goddamn video of being like, how do you catch a Pokemon?
Yeah.
Because I'm like...
Video?
Oh, well, I mean, it's like, they don't want you to skip it. It's just like all that the other person... It's like you watch somebody else catch a Pokemon. So it's basically like...
It's not even that it's written super poorly or anything. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's just, it was, for me, it was like... After a couple hours in Ultra Sun of trying to get through the dialogue, I was like, I don't care. You've introduced me to like 15 characters. I don't know why I should care about any of these people. Just leave me alone. Let me just give me a bike and let me go ride around and catch Pokemon. That's all I fucking want. I just
wish that these games would let you, especially for some of those tutorials, just be like, look, I've played the Pokemon.
Like a quick start
I know
option.
what a Pokemon's exactly. It's like I know what a Pokemon Center is. I know what HP is. I know how to catch a Pokemon. Just let me go.
I've bought a potion or two in my day.
Right. Yeah. Where it's like, yeah, I've put like a lot of time into Pokemon. Yeah. I know what it is. So you don't need it you don't need to like make me watch somebody go, you should get the Pokemon's HP as low as you can before you try to catch it. Because it's like, I know.
So
I understand.
You want to be able to test out of the tutorials.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, actually.
Pokemon placement test, PPT.
Yeah, like, I mean, if there was some like thing where you could say like, hey, I'm like, if there's a character where it's like, hey, I can show you around, but if you don't want to, that's cool too. And you go, nice, I'm going over here and not talking to you. That'd be real nice.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll see. I think I will probably at least get through Gen 2 because that's my favorite. So I would like to play. That was Gold and Silver. I would like to play Gold and Silver again. But yeah, we'll see how long it sticks, but it's been fun. Good show watching and podcast game, let me tell you. Fucking great for that stuff.
There's something to be said about that with Pokemon too.
Maybe no better video game series to play in the background while you watch a show, because you can pay so little attention to it when you're just catching and stuff.
I think it's between that and Diablo.
The only reason I would say I think Pokemon is because you can stop paying attention to Pokemon and it doesn't keep moving. So
that's true. Yeah. That's true.
That's the difference. I think you're right. I think Diablo is maybe a better podcast game than Pokemon. Because,
I think I would agree with that actually.
Because you don't have to stop doing what you're doing ever to pay attention to a podcast or an audiobook. But for show watching, I don't know if it gets better than Pokemon. I mean, I guess maybe like if grinding in any JRPG kind of works in that context, but Pokemon specifically is just, I don't know, because even when you're doing story stuff, like you don't feel like you need it on a big screen. You don't feel like you need to pause the show to pay attention to story, because story is kind of whatever. It's fine. So yeah,
and there's like as somebody that's played a lot of even the more story heavy Pokemon games, there's no Pokemon game where I'm like, but the story, you guys, is the thing. You know, it's like, you're there to catch a bunch of Pokemon. And
although we'll see if I make it this far. It's a lot of game to play to do it, but I am interested to revisit the Black and White and X and Y stories.
I am too. Because those stories, I want to play those again too.
That was when I did every Dex when I was a kid through like early college, and then X and Y was the generation that I kind of stopped playing at because I didn't like the story in it, and I just was like, Black and White was that Pokedex was a mountain to climb. So I had like done that, and then X and Y came out, and I was like, I started playing it, and I was like, I don't think I can do this again. But I know the end game of that story and what happens in it, and it's fucking wild. So I kind of want to go back and play that one.
I am like this close to joining you in this, because like, God, I want to catch all the Pokemon. Pokemon is a good game.
It's fun to know that I can catch them and put them into Pokemon Home in each generation now. I just didn't know that, because I knew you could do that with the original 151 using Let's Go, and I think Let's Go is good. I just got bored playing Let's Go, and it's not that I think it's a bad game. It just the way that they chose to remake it just did not work for me. But the fact that you can go back and play, it was $10 to get Blue on the Virtual Console on 3DS, and so it's like, okay, this is actually the way I would.
It's a low cost of entry.
Yeah. And I have a Mew from buying that fucking Pokeball. So I don't have to feel bad about that. And I don't care about catching each Pokemon in the specific game. The dream that, again, probably will never happen, but it would just be to have all of them in Pokemon Home from whatever.
Do you have to pay? Do you have to subscribe for Pokemon Home?
I think it comes with Nintendo Online at this point.
Okay, because you used to have to subscribe for like the Pokebank. Yeah,
I think I will have to buy.
It was like $5 a year or something.
It was $5 a year, but
I think I will have to buy that.
Not. Yeah.
because I believe to transfer Pokemon from the DS games to Pokemon Home, you have to use the bank as an intermediary. But whatever, $5 is fine.
I think
if I want to play X and
Pokemon because I'm not subscribed to the Pokebank anymore, so I think they just like wipe all your stuff after a time. Maybe they don't. I don't know.
They do. I think you just can't access them. But Pokemon X and Y are pretty hard to find. So I take that back. It's only like $40 to get a copy of Pokemon X, so it's not so bad.
If your Pokemon Bank Pass expires, you have a certain amount of time in which to withdraw any Pokemon you currently have stored. Unfortunately, after this period elapses, those Pokemon are lost, and we unfortunately do not have any way to restore them, even if you purchase a new pass.
Christ, that's crazy.
That is weird.
Yeah. Well, it's fucked that
Pokemon is dead to me.
It's weird, but I guess it is Pokemon. So like, as somebody that loves that franchise, I know. As somebody that loves Pokemon, I'm like, I'm accustomed to bullshit.
They don't even say like what the time is. They just say after a certain amount of time.
Yeah, that's weird.
I bet they don't let you know when that time's about to come up too. But whatever. I mean, it comes with Pokemon Online. Or Nintendo Online, and I'm just gonna have that forever because I'm an idiot and I just let them take $20 a year from me. So yeah.
Well,
I don't know. Anyway, that's been fun. The last thing I'll talk about, I'm eating up a lot of time, so I'm going to try not to talk about it for too long. But I played a extremely cool board game called High Frontier last weekend. It's very complicated, but I'm mostly bringing it up because I hadn't even heard of it before as someone who's really into board games until like 2 weeks ago. And it's so cool. So I think more people, especially I think there's some people that listen to the show that might be into it. If you like Kerbal Space Program and like The Expanse, this game is like, what if you took Kerbal Space Program and with aesthetics closer to The Expanse, and that was the game. Starts in the year 2020, and you are a spacefaring organization. There are corporations in there, and NASA's in there, SpaceX is in there, NASA's in there. There's like a Japanese space agency, the UN is in there. There's a Russian agency. It's all these different factions. And you are trying to industrialize the solar system. And the sort of goal is to score victory points, which you get by exploring and building factories on different objects in the solar system. And it has supposedly the most accurate commercially reproduced Delta V map of the solar system as the game board. So it's just if you're listening, just search High Frontier game board.
I'm looking at this, and it is just, there are so many lines and like words and like little icons on this map. It is
so cool. It's what's wild is that once you start to learn to play it, it very much clicks. Like, it's really well designed. The current edition of it is really well designed from a like UI perspective, but it does look like gibberish when you first look at it. But like, it's like the way that it works is you go, okay, well, what do I want to achieve? I want to go to Mars, and I want to build a factory on one of the moons of Mars. So to do that, I need and moons of Mars is a bad example. Let's say Mars itself, the planet. So Mars, it's a planet. It's big. So to get off of Mars and to have enough thrust to be able to effectively slow down and land on Mars, we need to do one of two things. We either need to be willing to risk damage to components by aerobraking in Mars's atmosphere, which is very risky, or we need to have a big enough rocket that we have the thrust to land safely on the planet without needing to aerobrake. So we're going to go with the latter option because it's safer for components inside the ship. There's risk to damage. So we need a really big rocket to do that. We need a really big rocket because we need to go fast at a certain point because we're going to have to pass through a radiation band. And the slower we're going through a radiation band, the more chance there are that radiation will damage stuff. So good reasons to have a big, huge rocket. Say that rocket has a mass of 3 because it's big. We need some kind of thruster to just kind of make our burns to get to Mars from Earth orbit, because the bigger rocket's going to be really fuel inefficient. So it's just not possible to carry enough fuel to use that huge rocket to burn all the way there. So we have to have a smaller thruster. That's massive one. We need to bring some prospecting equipment. Let's say we're going to bring a rover with a mining laser on it. Or a prospecting laser, whatever. So we're going to bring that. So that's got mass. And also our thruster needs a generator. So we're going to have to bring a generator. And that generator requires a reactor. So we're going to bring a reactor. And they're all different types. So we have to make sure all the types match in this sort of support chain. And then we're going to bring a refinery, because the refinery is what we place on the planet to make it into a factory. And we're doing all this because we're going to score victory points. And then once we have a factory there, we can create really good stuff at that like exo Earth factory on another planet. So we know all the stuff that we're going to need. We start bidding for patents from a deck of patent cards, and we're fighting with other players over these patents. That takes like several turns to be able to sort of get the components ready for this rocket. We boost the rocket into orbit, we put the rocket together, and then we load it up with fuel, and we have to make very specific calculations, because now we've got a mass 8 rocket. We know we're going to need 7 fuel burns to get to Mars, and one of those fuel burns, 2 of those fuel burns, in fact, are going to require like 9 fuel each, because of our big rocket that burns a lot of fuel. So we're looking at needing at least like 18 fuel. So now we're going to be also loading up for our intermediary burns. And now we're at the point where we have this like super heavy rocket, because it's got all this fuel in it. And all the stuff we planned out, we start heading out into space, and then we get to the radiation area, and it's like, oh no, well, because we're so heavy, we're moving slower. So now there actually is a risk to our components. So we need to roll this radiation die and hope that it gets low enough number. And if it doesn't get a low enough number, your whole missions might just pop because it damages stuff. And then we get to Mars. Oh no, we made a fuel miscalculation. We have to aero brake. Another roll that this could just end it all. And this is that's kind of like this game for a lot of the early parts of it. Is this, let's try to figure out how to build a rocket that can achieve a certain goal and then go for it. And you end up, like, I spent 3 hours trying to figure out how to get a rocket on the moon, because the moon, it turns out, is very hard to land on. If you've played Kerbal Space Program, you might know that like it's actually easier to go to their Mars equivalent than the moon. And that's true in real life as well. The biggest barrier for us getting to Mars is how long it takes. So we can't figure out how to make sure that people can be safe and psychologically sound for the like year that it would take to get to Mars. But landing on the moon, you can get there faster, but it is really hard because you're going very fast when you are getting there. So you need a huge boost, like rocket, to slow down enough to survive the and to get into the moon's orbit, because it's so much smaller than Earth. So it's just really hard to transfer. That's true in this game as well. So I spent like 3 hours figuring out how to get to the moon, and then eventually I was able to do it and build a factory there, and it was really lucrative. But the meantime, my friends were figuring out how to like maybe industrialize the asteroid belt and use asteroids instead, because this map has like everything. It has every notable asteroid. It has comets on it that come and go throughout the course of the game. It has exoplanets way out at the edge of the solar system. And what I like so much about it is every time you play it, you can go, well, this time I'm going to try to do the moons of Jupiter. That's going to be my goal this game. And it almost feels like it doesn't matter.
Are there drops of Jupiter?
It's funny, they do use water droplets to determine like how easy it is to prospect on a planet, which is funny. But then the other cool thing about this game is it has different modules. So like all the stuff that I described is sort of a high level overview of the base game. In the box that I have for the 4th edition, High Frontier for All is what they call it. It has module 0, which you can add once you've learned how to play it, and that's called Politics. And it adds a like laws that can happen. So there's like different voting parties, and players each get some pull in that. And based on those things, it can cause different game rules to come into effect that are new, and that sort of change how the game works. And it causes a little more player inactivity because you can screw somebody over. You can say like, all right, well, they're about to land on this asteroid. We're going to pass this law that says you can't mine asteroids. That's just an example. I don't think that's one of the real laws, but that kind of stuff. But then the expansions are really affordable. And there's like a module that includes new kinds of technology, new kinds of thrusters, new kinds of equipment to put on your rocket. There's a module that's more about colonization. So you can like fully colonize planets. You can build space stations, and those have their own sets of rules that are impactful. And then there's also a module called combat, or I don't know if it's called combat, but it's a combat module that introduces like warfare into the game. So now it goes from like very minor, there's very little you do that's like militaristic in the game at first, but if you add that module to the game, then it's full on expanse. Like you're getting into like fights above planets with other players and shooting lasers and missiles at each other. So the way that it's so modular and you can add on to it, I was seeing some people say that they like to play with like 3 of the modules, and their games take like 14 hours when they play them.
Oh my God.
We played for 6 hours and got about halfway through the base game. I think if you learned how to play it, it would not be as bad.
It would be about half that time probably, right?
Yeah, I mean, I saw some people saying that it gets down to about 45 minutes per player if you if you really get used to the rules, and that some people use turn timers so that you can't you basically are limited to 60 seconds a turn, which sounds really, really, really tight. But one of the best parts about this game is, even though it's really long, on your turn you do movement and then one thing, that's it, and then it goes to the next person. There's no, it's actually, the turns are very, very brisk, because as long as you're paying attention and you're spending time figuring out what you're going to do on your turn, it's like, my turn, I'm going to move 4 steps on the board, which I've already calculated out, and I'm going to do an auction for a patent, and that takes 30 seconds, and that's it. So you can play it faster, but it is definitely a complex game, and I guess it's like one of the most heavy board games on Board Game Geek, which is like the website for board games. They have a weight scale that people vote on, and it's out of 5, and this one's like a 4.83. So there's a couple of old war games that are like World War II chit-based strategy games that are a little higher in complexity, but that's about it. So if you like big, thick, heavy games, High Frontier is a good one to pick up. I would say too, if this sounds cool to you and you don't like, and you wish it was a little less heavy, High Frontier for All is still a good pickup, because it includes 2 different games in the box that use the components. One of them is called Space Diamonds, which is very easy to understand. It's just about movement, and it's not about different components. It breaks it down to just like, you need to get here and you have this thruster. And it's actually designed for, they say, bright children to get into it, and you just kind of learn a little bit about rocketry. And then there's also a game called Race for Glory that simplifies the core game rules quite a bit. So you can play that if you are interested, but don't want to spend 12 hours playing a game. And I highly recommend it. Will probably end up becoming one of my favorite games once I play it a few more times, because it's really, really cool and very unique too. There's very little in it that is transferable to other board games, which is pretty cool. Usually I can look at a board game and go like, oh, so it's hand management with some worker placement and guys on a map. This game is like, there is some hand management and there's an auction mechanic. That's about the only thing I can map to other board games. Otherwise, it is very unique.
All right. Well, that sounds fascinating, and I would love to play it, and I probably never will due to time constraints. And
it's on Tabletop Sim, so one of these days,
maybe
official Tabletop Sim mod.
Okay, it's a date.
I can guide us on the path. One nice thing about it too that we ran into, because it is such a complex game, playing with my friends, we were playing it cooperatively, even though it's competitive. It does have cooperative and solitaire mod like game variants, but even playing the competitive game variant, we were still helping each other, like trying to help each other figure out like how to get to places. And there's no hidden information in the game, so it's pretty. You can play it very collaboratively, at least, so you're not just screwed if you don't know how to do it.
All right. Well, I would want to play with, like, I wouldn't want to sit somewhere for, I don't think I could sit somewhere for like 6 hours and try to figure that out by myself.
16 hours.
Yeah. I don't think it would. I would. I definitely wouldn't do that. But my girlfriend would be like, "What the fuck are you doing? What the fuck is wrong with you?" Yeah. But yeah, it sounds fun and interesting. I like space stuff, but wow, sounds complicated. Yeah. Well, speaking of going to the moon, Alex.
Look,
Netflix would never fly me to the moon, but Alex,
we do not engage in crypto shit on this podcast. Okay,
you're right. No, what was the interview with Keanu? He kept saying like, "Oh, are you hodling?"
I saw a really funny Bitcoin news headline. I just googled Keanu Reeves NFTs because I was trying to find trying to find that quote.
Yeah.
And I saw a news story from Bitcoin News, and the headline read, "Keanu Reeves owns crypto, is skeptical of NFTs." And I was like, motherfucker, if your takeaway from that interview is that Keanu Reeves is a crypto guy, you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Yep. Someone bought it for me. I have not touched it. Like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, totally. No, but you know what isn't involved in crypto and is in fact being detrimentally affected by the crypto market because all those chuckleheads are fucking up the GPUs and semiconductor shortages, etc. Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah, I saw a picture of on Twitter of like this big giant crypto farm, and like half of the replies were like, "Fucking up Final Fantasy 14 for us."
Why are you doing this to Yoshi P?
Yeah, we have it in the news, and maybe we'll talk about it there. But the ongoing server issues with Final Fantasy 14 have been fascinating, in a lot of ways. Just because like it's purely coming down to infrastructure and a lack of resources in semiconductors and stuff. It's like it's bizarre.
From what I understand, like they've actively been like trying to buy new servers, but there's just this shortage is just like they're like, we'll pay extra, and they're still like don't have that. So
yeah, people have suggested like in earnest, not even like jokingly being like, hey Blizzard, can we rent some of your servers or something for a little while? like people have actually been suggesting that because they have huge infrastructure. So anyways,
I'd be like Blizzard would be like Rorschach. I'd be like, you ask me if you can install your game on my servers, and I look at you and I say no.
Yeah, exactly. But anyways, yeah, Final Fantasy 14. I don't think we've ever talked about it on this podcast ever. But
that's the sequel to Final Fantasy 13 too, right? This is like Snow 13, returns, Lightning 13, came back, and then Snow has to come back, right?
It's basically 13.4, yeah.
Yeah, 13. Okay, so not even 13.3. This is 13.4.
Yep.
13.4 dash. What is this? The 4th expansion, right? So
20.
Nice.
Yeah. So, Final Fantasy 13 4-20 is what I've been playing, of course, and that is Endwalker, which I have walked to the end. I have finished Endwalker, and I have many things to say about it, but I'm going to keep it 100% spoiler free because it's the kind of thing where I think people should play it. Like, people should experience it rather than look it up, because and I would hate to dive into some story details of someone who's never played Final Fantasy 14 and might be interested in it and go and, you know, knowing where it goes. That would just be cruel, because like personally, I try not to speak in declarative statements as much as possible, but I feel pretty comfortable in saying that Final Fantasy XIV is now one of the best games of all time. Like, it accomplishes something that I think like some games and series specifically have strived for but never really achieved, in my opinion. Like, okay, for an example, Mass Effect. Don't get me wrong, I love Mass Effect. Like, for the listeners here, I'm wearing a Mass Effect hoodie right now.
Me too.
Yeah, and BioWare did an amazing job like creating a world that you cared about and like characters who matter in it, and like the overall plots were interesting and they were pretty ambitious in telling an epic story across 3 games. And for the most part, they nailed it for the first 2, but in my opinion, like the third one really drops the ball, like particularly the ending. Like, it's really hard to craft a long story without getting to the end and then just feeling like everything is just like you're throwing it all together in like kind of pandering ways. That's what I felt was wrong with Mass Effect 3.
Sure, but Mass Effect also has the issue of having like multiple, choose your own adventure type stuff. So then it has to bring all of that somehow to a close while also trying to account for that. And that is a choice they made and a problem they had to deal with. And whether you think they successfully dealt with it or not is that's up for debate. Whereas Final Fantasy 14 and Final Fantasy in general is a game that is, here is a set storyline. Maybe you'll get the occasional like, I can make a dialogue choice, and depending on the game, maybe it'll change who I go on a date with or something. But besides that, you're working in like a very different field in terms of like storytelling.
Sure, but I think even if you like, I think it's kind of mutually exclusive. Like, I think even if you are considering the diamond shaped thing, the way that they pull everything together at the end, even if like you didn't play the first 2 games and just made some of the arbitrary choices at the start of 3, like being like, oh, who died on Eden Prime? Was it Eden Prime? I don't know, not Eden Prime. What planet did Caden and Ashley die on?
I don't know.
Oh
Wow.
God.
Spoilers for a game that came out this year.
Yeah,
Mass Effect Legendary Collection. You're just spoiling it.
It's
Wow.
because Ashley died because she's a piece of shit. Anyways.
Oh yeah.
Anyways, like the point being, like even like the problem with Mass Effect 3 is that it tries to tie everything together in a really pandering way. Like, it's this throwaway character from Mass Effect 1 that you saw for 20 seconds came back and is like, do you remember me? Like,
right.
Like,
and that is, to be fair, like what a lot of people wanted more of from Mass Effect 3 is like you have somebody who you like talk to once in Mass Effect 1. It's like, hey, I remember this decision you made to say thank you instead of fuck you.
Yeah.
I appreciated that.
And I think, that's the closest analogy closest analog I could think of to the scope of a story, just a long one that has been ongoing for a long time and, has things you care about. Whereas Final Fantasy 14, it's legitimately a 10-year story. Like, it's
Trails of Cold Steel. What is that universe, Pat? All those games?
Legend of Heroes.
Legend of Heroes. There you go. Yeah, Legend of Heroes. We're gonna put you and Sam in a cage match, and we're gonna see who comes out on top.
I don't want to do
that. I tried it. It wasn't for me. Anyways, Final Fantasy 14. It is a 10-year story. Like, it started over probably 11 years ago. If you like think about 1.0, that and it restarted itself essentially. And it's one that's just totally replete with like lore and characters and just massive scale conflicts and stuff. So Endwalker had the impossible task of pulling it all together into a satisfying ending, which I feel like rarely happens. And like, they totally nailed it in a way that like I've not seen any other game do, which is really fascinating.
Endings are hard.
Yeah. And they 100% did it. Like, the thing is, like, you hear about people talking about the trajectory of that series, how A Realm Reborn is kind of a slog, and then Heaven's Word is a high point. Stormblood, it has high points, but like overall it's paced pretty poorly. And then you have Shadowbringers, which is generally beloved, pacing problems here and there, but generally beloved. And then, so overall the trajectory is positive, with little lulls here and there. And people were generally saying, yeah, for me, Shadowbringers was a 10 out of 10. I don't know how you can possibly do anything better than that. Like, it seems like they're setting themselves an impossible standard. And I would say, barring a few issues I had with it, like, again, pacing sometimes wasn't the best, but I think it surpasses Shadowbringers in almost every way, which is crazy. Like, because if I consider Shadowbringers a 10 out of 10, I guess that means I have to consider this an 11 out of 10. Like, they end, like, they well and truly end the Hydaelyn and Zodiac story, as well as the Scions of the Seventh Dawn. Like, they did it, they wrapped it up as perfectly as they could have, and they did it boldly. Like, they did not wimp out on anything, and it's really, really fascinating. Like, it's just really cool. They deal with a lot of subjects that I wasn't expecting to go into, like deep talks on depression and like the problems with having empathy and like anxieties and like the actual realities of coping with death of someone you really care about and stuff like that. Like, it dives into all that stuff really well. It's a fascinating thing. I would love to talk about spoilers, but this is neither the time nor the place. But it's fantastic.
Nice. So did you stick with Summoner through the whole thing?
I did. Yeah.
Has your opinion on the new rotation changed at all, like mechanically, or
right,
is it still like disappointing?
Yeah, the original thoughts I had were that they kind of simplified Summoner way too much to the point where it just felt boring. And once you get to level 90, like once you hit the level cap and you have now the full complement, it's back to being interesting. And it's the summon, the rotation is easy to execute more or less, but it actually does leave you a lot of decision making, like depending on what you want to pull out at any given moment. It's like, oh, you have to deal with a lot more AoE. Okay, I'm going to do this one. So you do actually end up getting the choices again. It's just the execution is far easier.
But you only went up 10 level. That seems
but
like they put a lot.
Yeah, each level probably gave
like,
you between 3 and 5 abilities.
Sure, but isn't Summoner a class you can choose from the beginning, or a job you can choose from like level 1 of the game? Like you can start as a Summoner, can't you?
Yeah, I don't know how it works from the start. Well, you start as an Arcanist, but yeah.
Oh, okay. So this is like you have to get to like level like 30 or something to be a Summoner. Yeah. Okay. But even then, like if you have to go from 30 to 90 for it to become interesting, I don't know about that.
I think there was some stuff earlier. It's just I didn't figure out the full rotation until probably closer to 85, 86.
It took you more time. Okay, because I was going to say, like, if they're making you play through like 60 level, and they've got like ways to level through jobs quicker and stuff, but they were making you go through like the entire level rotation before you, or the entire level progression before you can get like an interesting rotation, that would have been kind of crap. But okay.
Yeah.
Just early days of going, what the hell is this?
Yeah, and once you figure it out, it's actually good. It's fine. I would say the old Summoner was still more interesting in terms of just engagement, but the new one it's good. It's fine. But the very, very, very few critiques. Like, again, comfortable saying Endwalker firmly puts it as probably one of the best games of all time, just as a whole.
Right in line behind Final Fantasy VIII. And Fable: The Lost Chapters.
I just wish that I found it held up from a gameplay perspective over the long haul. I think that's why I would struggle with that kind of a statement about. I mean, everyone can say whatever they want to about it. I'm certainly not saying your opinion's invalid, but it's just hard for me because it hits a point where I just got so bored with the combat and with hitting the same buttons over and over again that I totally think like story is subjective, and I can see why people love it, and I'm really happy people love it so much, but it's hard for me to continue to kind of lay praise on it when I just found the gameplay to not hold up from an engagement perspective over the sort of long haul.
Did you end up trying different jobs?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're all pushing number buttons in different orders, so it just kind of I think again, if that's what you're looking for, because you could say, and I'm not saying Tarkov is like one of the best games of all time or anything, but we talked about it in this episode, so that's why I'm bringing it up. You could say Tarkov's just shooting you just click the left mouse button with different guns. So I think that like I'm not necessarily making that as an argument to be super critical of it, but it's why
Paper Mario's hitting the A button over and over
exactly
again.
You can say that with a lot of, it's not a good, like a great argument, but it's ultimately why different job classes didn't really work for me to bring that fun back, because I was kind of like, well, I tried different tank classes and it was like, well, they all are basically about building a resource than burning it. It's just differently displayed. All the DPS classes are largely like, they have different kinds of mechanics and rotations, but they're still built on the same kind of foundations. So it just became hard, I guess, to stay with it from a gameplay perspective. And then, you know, the story stuff, I don't want to be too critical of, because the fact that Shadowbringers didn't hit for me doesn't really mean anything, because it's very hard for other people. And there's plenty of game stories that hit really hard for me that other people don't enjoy. So that's like not even really worth being a line of criticism. But I wish I could have found a way to continue to find the gameplay as engaging as a lot of people do, for sure.
I definitely like the story stuff where you're talking about like, oh, it's the end of the Hydaelyn and the Zodiarcs and the end of the Scion story. I'm like, I do not care about Hydaelyn, like from the stuff I've played. So it's just like hearing that, I'm like, oh, okay. I don't really care. Oh yeah, no, it's you know, people care about it. Like, yeah, it's for me. I'm like drawing lines between this and it's the Snyder Cut, where I'm just like,
you know, it's just if those characters in that story hit for you, I think it's great that they took it to the places that they did.
It's like the Snyder Cut. It's some people are super happy about it, and good for them. I watched it. I went, you know, I had a few like you know, endorphin hits when like cool shit happened on screen, stuff blew up. I went, oh yeah, that was pretty sick.
I will say that I think
that didn't care about any of the characters.
Quality of storytelling is definitely higher in Final Fantasy.
Yes. Hey, like this is
but
just like in terms of my experience with like those two things, there is like a very similar, like my reception was like, oh yeah, okay, sure, if people like this, that's fine.
But I also think what I'm looking for out of it is a lot different than a lot of players, because I actually liked Stormblood a lot. That's probably my favorite of the 3 expansions that I've played some of, and it's the one that most Final Fantasy fans would say is the weakest. So you know, there's just a lot of, one of the things that disappointed me the most about Shadowbringers is that Lise is one of my favorite characters, maybe my favorite character, and she's like not 100%. And so when I realized that, I was like, oh, that sucks. And a couple of my friends were like, oh man, it's so good Lise isn't in it. She's so annoying. She's the worst character in the game. I just was like, y'all are so wrong.
How could somebody be so wrong?
It's just, I think that story was like kind of not really written for the sort of stories that I tend to fall the most in love with, and that's okay. It's I'm really glad that people are so high on it, and that it didn't end up being a disappointment, because there were so many opportunities for them to drop the ball, and it makes me really happy that they didn't, for the people who really like it.
Makes me excited for Final Fantasy 16.
I am excited for that game. Yeah, should be good.
Even though the Clive or whatever they got the guy's name is, but
it's a good name.
Yeah. Anyway, any final thoughts on Endwalker after we just went?
Pretty much everything you said gets addressed. So, but I'm also not going to try and convince anyone to play something they don't want to play.
I think the frustrating thing to me
I'm happy for you, or I'm sorry that happened. I'm not going to read all that.
Yeah, I think
I can't say things without spoiling stuff, so I'm just not going to say anything.
Yeah.
At some point, I'll probably give up and ask where things get addressed, because people have been continually saying that to me about Shadowbringers, like all the stuff. And I kept playing Shadowbringers, and they kept saying, well, it's about to be addressed. And then it wasn't. So, and not you necessarily. I'm talking about like other friends that I've played with and stuff. And so I am curious at what point, like I had a long conversation with another friend about like, these are the things I don't like about Shadowbringers. And they were like, well, you just need to get past this quest, and then all that stuff is addressed. And I did, and none of it was like, nothing at all was addressed. And then they're like, well, maybe it's in a few more quests. And I was like, but again, it's all preference.
Promises.
It's subjective stuff. So at some point, if I don't, I am interested in probably, I'm going to take another run at it at some point, not restarting it or anything, but with my character where they're at. And if I can't get through it, I definitely will just hit you up for the spoilers to ask, like, to figure out where the things that I've struggled with end up getting addressed. Because I am interested, having put so much time into it this year, I am interested in where it goes in the end.
Part of me is wondering if it's just like, weird timing. Like lately I've been into like more actiony game, like playing a lot of Battlefield. I haven't played so much this week. I want to get back to it. I got to do my new weeklies or whatever, but playing stuff like that, or League or Halo, or whatever I'm playing, I'm not playing so much story stuff, even though I'm playing like Guardians of the Galaxy right now. But I'm wondering if it's just like I'm not in the space for what Final Fantasy 14 is putting down, and like I'll go back to it and maybe it'll be fine. But I'm leaving myself open to it, but there's nothing that is like pulling me in. But I'm glad people are happy. Yeah. But if that's all for Endwalker, then for me this week, I finally got my hands on an Xbox Series S and a Elite controller, somehow below like MSRP, because the box had like water damage on it, which is like fine. I don't care, whatever. And then also we had like a coupon for the secondhand market where it was sold. So we got it for like just under MSRP, I think.
I was I was so close to signing up for Xbox All Access for Series X last week. I was like, because if you do All Access, they have different stock for that. So it's actually not that hard to get one. If you do All Access, you usually have to wait like a week and a half. And you're on a list and then you're guaranteed to get one, was the way that their All Access shit works. And I was like, finger on the trigger. And then I was like, no, what am I using this for? I have a PS5. The only thing that would get played on it is Forza right now. And is that worth it?
With the Elite controller, it's pretty cool because like using the paddles on the back to shift is a lot of fun. But I'm still like, I thought like maybe if I do that, that'll like make Forza more fun. And I'm still not in love with Forza 5, like Forza Horizon 5. It's fun, but it's, I don't.
It's an also ran. It's just, you've done it before. I played so much 4 that it. I don't think I think I got that experience.
And you're doing you're doing a lot of other racing stuff, like iRacing, and they're different. They're different, but you're getting your racing fix in other places. Whereas this is like the only racing game I've played in months. And
to be honest with you, Forza has more in common with Pokemon than it does with iRacing, because of the car collection aspect. That's my interest in Forza.
But so I've played a little bit of that, and Quick Resume makes that nice because I can just like pop it up and I did a race and I'm gonna bounce over back to something else. And I've been in the Halo Infinite campaign, which came out like last week.
I still haven't even touched it.
It's fine. It seems good. So it opens up and it is just like Halo level. Like, they start off like, okay, do what they've done, I think, since the first game, which is like the follow the light, look up, look down, look, which is like check your inversion, and they just follow whatever you do, which is neat. But so then you're just like going through linear corridors in a spaceship and doing stuff. Then eventually you do that like 2-3 missions, then they kick you out into the open world and give you like, you're like, hey, here's this like zone, and there's some forward operating bases, FOBs, and like some icons on a map. Go do stuff. And you can grapple hook around. Grapple hook's real cool. It's way better in the campaign than it is in the multiplayer, I think, just because the cooldown's pretty short. and you can just like grab onto trees and you can like throw yourself through the sky. That's pretty cool. I've talked about how I'm not sure that Halo is going to be like for me this year, just because like all my experience, all my fondness for Halo is playing with my friends on LAN. This does not even have co-op campaign, which is still funny to me, but it's at least fun. It's neat doing like going up and clearing out the fobs and figuring out like, okay, what is my strategy? But mostly my strategy is just go in, shoot everybody, and get out, because they don't really incentivize stealth in any way. In like previous games, like Reach, I don't think maybe Halo 3 had it. They had like a stealth kill where if you got up behind an enemy, you could really just do an execution style kill on them. I haven't seen that in this one.
In the single player?
Yeah. In the campaign, you could do that.
You can do it in the multiplayer.
You can do like a canned animation kill.
You can't.
You can get like the backslap or whatever, but that
I'm thinking I was confusing with Battlefield, so I was playing Battlefield. Yeah. Battlefield does have executions.
I think there were execution kills. Maybe it was only the sword. I don't remember, but yeah. So it doesn't have like a stealth mechanic really. Like you can sneak around and they won't see you and stuff, but there's no like, I was seen and now I'm gonna go hide, and they're gonna go back to wandering around doing their patrols or anything. So yeah, that it's pretty like stock standard Halo, just gives you a little more freedom in those open world areas to kind of go around and do what you want to do. And then it'll be like, oh, you got to go to the tower. And that was kind of the first main objective in the open world, was go to this tower and figure out how to get inside. And you have to like have a firefight as you try and like find like the generator and then turn on the grav lift, go up inside. You have a boss fight in there. They have like named bosses with like health bars and stuff, which I don't think I've seen in a Halo game before. I don't think so. And so they've actually like kind of done not a nemesis system, but sort of a nemesis system where they're like, oh, there's this badass.
You can call it that. Lawyers.
Yeah. Well, yep. WB's lawyers coming to get me.
The true nemesis system. WB's legal team.
Yeah. But you can go and grab, so they get like, as you go around, you find like intel on Banished is the faction. Banished, like high value targets, I guess. And they're like, oh, this elite was known for has killed like countless UNSC soldiers and is super dangerous. And then you go and you just like kill them real quick. Or there's like a grunt who's like super dangerous and known for being extremely brutal. And I'm like, a grunt? Really? A grunt is okay, I guess. Like grunts are never they ain't shit. So that stuff's all kind of funny. If you care about Halo lore, are there people who care about Halo lore? There's a lot of books. There must be, but so that stuff might be fun.
Oh, buddy.
The only stuff I know is from that Brian David Gilbert video.
People
where he
care about Halo lore.
All the Halo books.
Yeah. People are.
This is a lot of lore that I did not know existed for Halo.
I have never encountered someone who actually cares. I've encountered one person in high school who cared about the Halo lore.
I know several. It is, people are horny for Halo lore for sure.
Yeah. Well, are they horny for this like new AI's feet? Because they got bare feet on this AI.
I don't know anybody who has admitted to that, but I am assuming you can make assumptions sometimes.
People like if the question is, are people horny for anything? The answer is yes.
Especially when there's feet involved.
Well, I was addressing these specific people. Yeah. But they're 100% people horny for Cortana or this Cortana lookalike. That is definitely not Cortana, but I think it might be Cortana. But They say they are. I don't know. We'll see. I didn't play Halo 5. I don't know what's going on. Kind of do. I don't know. It doesn't matter. It seems neat. I'm gonna keep playing, but I don't think it's like an essential. Like everybody must play Halo Infinite. It's fine, and it's something fun to play on like new console. I'm trying to play like I'm using the Elite controller, and I'm trying to like get used to using the paddles to replace the face buttons. So that way, if I go online, I never have to like take my thumb off the right thumbstick, so I can always be aiming, jumping, aiming, reloading, everything. Always be aiming. ABA. That's Halo Infinite. I can finally play. Really, the important thing is I can finally play Fable 2.
There you go.
Oh,
I'm excited for you. Good game.
Which
I don't think you should build it up in your head too much. It's a good sequel to Fable.
People have been talking. Oh, I love Fable.
Yeah,
and
I think you'll really like it. But I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not going to.
I like Fable 3 well enough, but it's not.
As
like,
a pretty big Fable and Fable 2 fan, I'm going to say Fable 2 is a very good sequel that you'll probably love. I'm not gonna it is not. I'm not out here to tell you it's going to change your fucking life or something.
Okay.
Like,
well, we'll see.
It's good. It's good.
I've been sick of people like talking about how great Fable 2 is. I'm like, well, if they just put it on PC, I could play it. And then
I guess it's one of those games that I think people have built up a little bit too much. Like
maybe
the way people build up Final Fantasy, I think if Final Fantasy hits for you, then it actually lives up to that clearly. Like that Fable is one of those, like the way people build it up, I think is maybe a little hyperbolic.
It's like Peter Molyneux's promises are somehow alive and well.
But it's a really good game, so I'm excited for you to play it because it's definitely a top shelf action RPG.
You're a top shelf action RPG.
Thank you. I strive every day to be that for everyone around.
Goals.
Well, next up, we got to go into the news. This week, not so bad.
We have news at home.
Okay, well, single black coffee. This week, as we alluded to earlier, Final Fantasy 14 still under duress, under extreme stress from the success of Endwalker's release, and they have the critically acclaimed Final Fantasy 14 no longer has a free trial up to level 60, including the Heavensward expansion and restrictions on playtime, because they want people to stop playing this fucking game.
Yeah, it is.
So the people who are playing can play.
Too many people want our game, and that's a problem.
It's currently not possible to register a new account.
Yeah.
At all.
Jesus Christ.
You can't even buy it, right? Like
yeah, well, it's currently the starter edition, etc., are delisted on Steam, and apparently they're preventing retailers or something from selling the physical copies or something. Maybe they're not letting people redeem keys or something. I don't know how that works.
Oh yeah,
but it looks like there's also they've been putting like on various platforms. There have been Square Enix games on sale, so it's like play these games, not this game.
Play these instead, please.
Give us money for this, but not that. And it's like,
Final Fantasy 8 only $10. Go play it.
Yeah,
time compression, baby.
It's such a fascinating trajectory that has been taken there between being a critically panned and like the audience hating that game and just everyone hating the original to now it's literally the most popular thing in the world, and you can't play it even if you wanted to for some people.
Yeah, that sucks.
Like it's super crazy.
It sucks that that they're having so many server issues and people are like unable to play for whatever reason. People have weird schedules. Like if your only time you can play is based on in like the busiest hours for the game or whatever, that's a bummer. Especially if you end up getting error 2002 which
Oh my God,
apparently
yeah.
dates back to the original 1.0 release of the game.
Yep. So the curse is just, I don't know, it's permeated through the eras, apparently. It's super funny.
But yeah, so there's people in queues would get this error like 2002, and it would just boot them out of the queue, and they'd have to requeue.
I think it was something
When the
like,
queue itself was like bananas. Like I've seen some of the queue numbers where I'm like, oh, it's like it's bad.
Yeah, it's like something like I personally haven't been affected by it too much, being on the Japanese servers and playing in the middle of their night for the most part. Like the highest queue I've seen is like 50, whereas like my friend Amy and her crew, they post screenshots of queues in like 5,000, like or above. And yeah, I guess the 2002 era or whatever shows up when there's like over 40,000 concurrents on a given server or something, and then like a large number of them are pounding on the queue or something. I don't exactly know what it was, but it's just yeah, at some point they can't handle it, and it just kind of poops everybody out.
That's brutal. But it sounds so. My understanding was that this helped them like understand the cause, and like now they can address it.
I don't think
like
they can
this
address
whole experience. Oh, they can. Okay.
I don't know.
Thought this was like, okay, we've understood. Now this gives us like, maybe not immediately, but like this is something we can like
maybe
now begin to like, this is something like we can figure out and like remove from the game, and like as time goes on, we can like troubleshoot it and extract it and make sure nothing else breaks.
Yeah, I think their current method of addressing it is not letting new people play the game.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
It seems like there's enough buzz that I don't think it's actually going to hurt them in the long run.
I don't. It's suffering from success. Like, but if you read Yoshi P's letters that he's been writing, like addressing it, like he's written like 3 or 4 of them now, and he always comes across as just an extremely sincere individual, and like they've been very upfront. Like they've been saying exactly what's been going wrong, what stuff they want to do to fix it, but they can't, like because they literally. It's like a semiconductor thing, right? Like there's nothing they can do about it, but they're trying.
You can't build new servers.
And like they've been pretty generous about giving people game time as well. Like I think they've given about 3 weeks of game time as compensation already.
They can afford it, and maybe this will stave off Square shuttering another Western studio. Crystal Dynamics can live to make another game because Final Fantasy XIV sold a lot of expansions.
Eidos still Square?
Yep. Eidos did Guardians of the Galaxy, right?
I think so. Was it Eidos Montreal?
I think so, yeah. And then Crystal Dynamics is supposedly putting out another roadmap for Avengers like soon.
Huh.
It might be after the holidays or right before the holidays. I can't remember. We're right there, so I don't know. But yeah, so I'm surprised they're like actually putting something out so soon and like saying, "Hey, we're putting out a roadmap." But maybe people were getting worried. But yeah, I have no other information on that. Final Fantasy XIV. It seems like it's here to stay. Next up, things that may or may not be here to stay. At least not here to stay in Stalker 2. NFTs are coming to Stalker 2. Oh, breaking news. NFTs are not coming to Stalker 2.
I loved the bit in the middle that you left out though, where they were like, we're adding NFTs to this game, and then everyone shit on them, and then they're like, but guys, NFTs are going to be great for this game, like, and they put out this really long message being like, but it's so great, and we're doing it in a very environmentally friendly way, and it's so good, and then like within 2 hours it was like, we've heard you, and we're not doing NFTs anymore, thanks.
Yeah,
which is clearly we cannot list this on Steam, so thanks.
And also they said we will like make the best game for you no matter what the cost or something, which is definitely a red flag to me of like, all right, I guess since we can't put NFTs in there, make some money, we're just going to pay people dog shit and make them work 80 hours a week. I don't know if that's really what'll happen. Hopefully it won't be, but it was a weird line to add to this.
They're like weird bullshit was like become like an NPC, like metaverse, metahuman or something. And like, why is that an NFT? Like if I sell that to someone else, do they become the metahuman?
The reason it's an NFT, the reason that is an NFT is because that means that you can sell it to other people that you convince to buy into the Ponzi scheme. So like if it were just buy the $1,000 edition of the game and you get to be an NPC in the game, which is something that has been happening with games like for
Kickstarter
a decade
and
now. Instead of that, it's but if we do it this way, then the person can resell it to somebody else so they can sucker into buying it for $10,000. We can sell it to them. We can sell it to a crypto bro for $15,000 instead of $1,000, and then they'll sell it to somebody else. That's the whole reason.
Yes, that it makes sense. But what is the functional? So you buy this NFT to become an NPC in the game. If you sell that NFT, does the person you sell it to now get to like have themselves become an NPC and replace that NPC in the game? Like that's the part where I'm like, okay, what was your thought process here? Do I own do I own Pat's likeness as a Stalker 2 NPC if I buy his NFT from him? Like what even is that bullshit? It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, we won't know because it's not happening.
I do think as like I can't remember if I've said this before, but like people really need to stop using the environmentally friendly, like destroying the environment angle on NFTs because one, there are much more energy efficient blockchains that are becoming more and more popular, which is probably a good thing because it doesn't seem like it's going away, and it maybe will lead to less environmental devastation, even if I don't like the whole thing.
Even if, but I think this is probably where you're getting, but like, even if you take all of the environmental aspects out of it, it doesn't need to be an NFT. Like,
and just NFTs in general are still a pyramid scheme. So I think people need to focus on that angle when they're arguing about it on Twitter.
It's like what is an NFT doing for this use case that a serial number could not do?
Right. It's like, even if they come up with the way to do it completely environmentally friendly, which, I know that some places have argued that. I don't know the basics of that more, but even if you like say, okay, we did it. Like, what does an NFT offer that you couldn't do literally any other way? Like, I've seen people say like, oh, in the future, everybody's going to be using NFTs for everything, like boarding passes for planes and stuff. It's like, but what does that offer rather than just doing it, like a serial code or just like the current system we have, other than just making it overly complicated?
Yep.
It's just so bizarre.
I will say, Stalker 2, those screenshots that they put out, fucking, if that's actually, I'm skeptical that that's actually screenshots of that game. That game looks out of this world. If that's what the game looks like, then I'm going to play it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I like Stalker, so
I played almost the entire Stalker earlier, just a couple months ago, and it's a very good game.
It looks neat. I'm still more curious about Atomic Heart, but maybe I'll see something from Stalker and be like, oh, okay, I get it now.
It also Atomic Heart looks good too.
Yeah, I really wonder what was behind that quick like double down and then wait, no, sorry, I'm trying to get it removed if we're not putting NFTs in the game. Like
how to delete a trending.
Like that was such a quick turnaround from the double down to the apology and the.
I do legitimately believe it was because they realized they wouldn't be able to sell it on Steam.
Maybe very possible.
It's very possible that they got notice from somebody even at Valve that was like, who saw it, that was like, yo, FYI.
Yeah.
Or at Microsoft. I don't know. I mean, it's
Yeah, like Microsoft's got that.
Don't no, fuck this. They haven't, as far as I know, they haven't made any public statements about NFTs. But if I were,
I think Phil Spencer has said something.
I think if
this game
I
is out in April, Jesus,
there's no way. I'm very skeptical about a lot of stuff about that game, but you know, I hope it comes out and it looks as good as it does in the screenshots. And it plays well.
So Phil Spencer is on the record saying we don't want that kind of content, and he says NFTs are more exploitative than about entertainment. So yeah, Phil Spencer, not a fan of NFTs.
I mean, it's also, if I were Microsoft, I would be like, fuck no, that is big money that we can't take a slice of. So
yeah, 100%.
No, thank you.
Like a real use of NFTs would be, which will never happen, would be like on Steam or using the blockchain, would be like Steam or, you know, Microsoft, Sony, letting you have games like on, you know, your ownage of the game on the blockchain or whatever, and then you could sell it to someone else and sell used games that way. They're never going to allow that.
Well,
but
I think
that would be a way to do it.
And you know more than me, Alex, but the thing that causes the problem, we talked about this a little bit with Ubisoft's NFT thing. The only way that would work is if Steam offered some kind of infrastructure to recognize the transfer of ownership and work that into their UI.
Oh, yeah,
which they could do without the blockchain being involved in the first place.
100%.
So,
yep, that's true. The benefit they get from doing it with blockchain is theoretically basically the log, right? Like the log that has been verified. Like, it's as long as this thing has existed, they will have the log from its inception to current, and like be able to see every step in between, and then be 100% guaranteed that it has been verified by like n number of sources.
You don't get people duplicating TF2 AirPods or whatever,
but
earbuds.
And theoretically, it could help prevent things like getting again, my friend Amy, her Final Fantasy account got phished 2 days ago, and she has not been able to log in, and like she's talked to support, she's been able to prove it's her and all this kind of stuff, but she still can't get into it. And theoretically, an NFT could help with that.
I do wonder if it would certainly be harder, but in a lot of these applications for things like that, I do wonder if part of the reason these blockchains seem or are so very secure is because it is still not as profitable to target them as it is to target less secured systems.
Yeah.
So
to be fair, there have been crypto heists and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean is I think if we moved to a future where everything was done with NFTs, we would just be fighting a security battle around those again. And I have no doubt that it would be harder than it is to hack things now, but I doubt it would be impossible. Seems like every 5 to 10 years, there are massive security advancements that seem like they're never going to be broken down, and then they're broken down. So I don't know. The whole thing is very silly to me. And, I'm glad that the sustainability aspect of it seems to be improving on some level, because it's clear that it's not going away anytime soon. And I would rather it be less destructive, but it is still a pyramid scheme.
It's better to be stupid and non-destructive than stupid and destructive.
For sure. The part of the reason when people talk about, not that I think anyone on this podcast has made like arguments in favor of this, but when people have talked about applications like you're talking about, Andre, that would be useful. Part of the reason that the only thing that NFTs are traded in is really like JPEGs and audio files and stuff is because
weird monkeys.
Yeah, because those things don't require, they are just JPEGs. They are just like convertible and portable files. You can, as soon as you're relying on the infrastructure of another program to like support your NFTs, it defeats the whole purpose in my mind, because it's like
100%.
they could just do it without
yeah,
the
no,
NFT being involved.
there is
So-
no way that like Sony or Nintendo or Microsoft or Steam or whoever will actually like allow like used game sale, like, you know, will actually do that for numerous reasons. And
Right.
if they could do it on their own if they really wanted to, and they don't
Yeah.
want to, like we could have had this years ago. But yeah,
I will say before we leave the subject, the most baffling one for me, have y'all seen NFT meals?
No.
There's like it's like a big thing with restaurant chains. Applebee's has one. I thought I saw an Arby's one.
Oh,
It's like
Oh.
NFTs. The idea is that you get like an NFT of food. It's like drawn by specific artists and stuff. Sometimes it's stylized, sometimes it looks very realistic.
Applebee's?
Yeah.
oh,
you're getting,
I
like,
see the Applebee's
Food
one.
NFTs. It's
Wait, so
fucking wild. It's not even I get the
Mm.
profile picture thing, as stupid as I think it is. I understand how people were like, I'm gonna buy this stupid ape and make it my profile picture. I think it sucks.
So
But like
ugly.
to some
So-
extent I understand it. But this
right
is,
to like if I feel like I would understand it more if I thought any of those NFTs were actually aesthetically pleasing.
yes,
you know,
I'm with
You know,
you.
it's like one of those things where it's like I wouldn't be for it, but I would understand, you know. I mean, as somebody that has, you know, bought art prints before, you know, it's like it's tempting in theory to do that, but they're just ugly. But now it's like, oh yeah, do you want to own the Applebee's NFT? And I guess somebody did because they sold. So
it's so strange. Like, okay, I have a couple thoughts on it. First, it's like, when do we get a Chili's Bloomin' Onion NFT? Because
Okay, now I'm on board.
that one seems fine. I get that. But like, it's just okay. For one thing, it kind of, I don't know if you guys ever noted or cared about this, but who was that artist that kept drawing olives?
No idea.
I don't know, a Godard or something.
Yeah. I know. I
and,
don't
like,
remember their
those-
name, but yeah.
Yeah, Godard. There we go, Godard. And like his whole shtick was painting olives doing various things. Like, oh, look at, here's an olive that's pole vaulting with its stick, and like, here's a bunch of olives in this martini glass, but the martini glass is flying through the sky. Like it was just all this art that was just, in my opinion, dumb, but selling for like millions of dollars. And this was in like the late 90s, early 2000s, and that
Mhm.
seemed dumb. And now this is just, it's come back, but in a
And-
whole new, way stupider way. And the art
At-
sucks a lot of the part.
At least with the physical art trade. And I understand that at the end of the day, there's a lot of parallels, but at least with the physical art trade, there is a physical object,
Sure.
and you can
Yeah.
say definitively all you have is a picture of it. You know?
right,
Like,
and there's like, yeah, I mean, there's issues with the art trade, but like at the end of
For
the
sure, yeah.
day, like, yeah, you do have the physical object. There is, it's not causing vast environmental decay. It's for the most part, you know, you're and also from what it seems like, most of those are actually supporting the artists. So, like, no, I know that, like, you know, the aftermarket of old art, it's, you know, just kind of shuffling money around. But if you buy a print from an artist or you buy an art piece from an artist, they are getting that money. Whereas with NFTs, that's variable, because
there's so
like
much
I've seen
stolen art.
yeah, there's a lot of stolen art in NFTs. There's a lot of it's I've seen I've been following a lot more of the art community recently, and there have been multiple like tutorials of like, here's how you protect your art from NFT theft, and it's like, sucks that
why
has
do we
to be a
need that?
thing.
Yeah.
But you can't do that with like a physical painting.
And I think the physicality of physical art, I agree with you, Alex, that some of that stuff is kind of stupid, but that artist can pump out those paintings of olives and find buyers for them. But it's like, they got to paint the olives. They got to set the art auction date. People have to show up for the auction. They have to bid their bid. They have to receive it, and then they have to store it. There's steps along the way that sort of limit the velocity of
Sure.
there's physical limitations that limit the velocity of money being wasted, I guess. And whereas with NFTs, I look at it because I guess because I hate myself, I don't know, but sometimes I dip into like NFT Twitter, and it's literally people who are like, you know what, I think this drop is going to do well, and then they get 1,000 replies that are like, well, if he's saying it, we gotta buy, because it's just that person is like a crypto influencer, and so they've like kicked off the pyramid scheme, and then a week later they'll be like, I'm not so sure about it. I know I said I was bullish on him, but I don't know. And then immediately the prospective value, things that aren't even out yet, haven't even been released, the prospective value of a thing that is all about prospective value goes down before it's even available to purchase, because one influencer said, actually, it's not going to be worth that much, because it's not about the art at all. It's just about like, what are people going to pay for it? So it's just fucking wild to watch. I can't.
That is a lot of olives. But like, I don't know. I think pretty early on in the NFT space, there was a lot of like talk of like, oh, this is going to be another way for artists to monetize, which like as you know, somebody that follows a lot of that, there's an interest there, but I don't know. Wait, did I accidentally?
No, you're
you're good. Yeah,
I wondered if I accidentally exited out of Discord there.
We should probably.
But yeah, no. But I feel like there increasingly, like, there are still some people who do NFT art, but like increasingly, I feel like people who are in like artists are just like, this is openly hostile to art. When like, yeah, you can say a lot about the actual physical art market, but you know, at the end of the day, I feel like there's still a lot of love for the actual art involved, even if there's still a lot of rich people shoveling money around, which I don't get from the NFTs, like from that community. I don't get like, I am doing this because I love art. I don't know.
I feel like it's this weird, I agree, and I think it's a weird combination of the kind of prevalence of FOMO culture, like people feel like they need to be involved. I think it's that. I think it's people that are looking for the next get rich quick scheme, like they're looking for their way to, you know, buy into something. And
I mean, it's people who it's people who think, man, I wish I had gotten into Bitcoin, you know, 10 years ago. Yeah, right. And I wish I would have gotten in on the ground floor. If I had, I could have gotten rich. But it's like, you know, this will always happen. There'll always be something that's the new hotness that people think, if I just get into this, then I can easily make a bunch of money. Like, I've seen a lot of comparisons between NFTs and Beanie Babies, but like, you know,
it's almost as if we just reconfigured our society so people didn't constantly have to think about the best way to get rich.
Well,
we would be a much more productive and happier society.
That makes too much sense, Pat.
And it's too complicated for this conversation.
Yeah.
We just need that Star Trek future, baby.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be real. There's probably already Star Trek NFTs, actually.
Anyways, Andre, this has been a great lighthearted news section, like you were saying.
We've got cool. It's really
good. We've got good news. Video games.
Yeah.
Has gained their first union in the industry. First, like, video games union specifically. There have been like writers unions and video game writers in writers unions, etc. But Vodio Games, what did they make? Vodio Games unionized.
The only major release is Beast Breaker.
It's
not a large studio.
Yeah, they're a small studio, but they have officially unionized, and I believe their like manager came out and was like, yeah, I supported them unionizing, or like the head of the studio or whatever it was, like, you know, came out and said they supported the union, which is good to see. Like, you know, small studio, hard to say too much, but they are, yeah, it sets a precedent. It's a good first step, and it shows like, you know, at least maybe smaller studios that they can get involved, or, you know, they can start to unionize. There have been a lot of like different like you know, shorter work weeks or co-op structure, different structures, different things in the indie space, but unions would go a long way to helping some of the larger studios in the space.
And I think it's really interesting. Secretary Marty Walsh, if anybody saw that, he's one of the members of the U.S. He's the U.S. Secretary of Labor. Actually, picked up on that article and was like, "Hey, congratulations! Like, we should start seeing this all across industries, and I'm glad to see the video game industry is doing it." So, like, here, I'll send the tweet to our group chat, and then I'll add it to the show notes if we want.
That's cool.
It's really cool.
I did see that. Fucking someone in the Biden administration doing something good.
I commend the Vodio Games. Oh, never mind. Vodio Games, the company. Sorry.
Yeah.
Thought it was. I started reading that. I was going to say I commend the Vodio Games industry, but I forgot the Vodio Games.
That was very funny.
Yeah. But
really cool.
and hopefully this is a sign of more things to come. And Activision Blizzard King Workers Union coming up any day now. Come on, let's do it.
Day.
Yeah,
I do think it is interesting. You would think that Marty Walsh would at least be aware of the lawsuits against ABK.
I don't know that he's not.
I mean, it's a huge. I mean, they make a lot of money, right? So like, they're a big company.
Yeah.
So
they've got federal lawsuits against them. So
that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So it's interesting to me. I wonder how much. I'm sure he's genuinely congratulating this company, but I also wonder how much of it was like, yeah. Cool. Video games should probably unionize, huh? Then maybe there wouldn't be. You know, I don't know if he's thinking that far.
I don't
down
know
the
if
chess
it's.
match, but
I
it's
don't know.
interesting.
I don't know if someone in public office would be able to say that when there's ongoing litigation going on.
That's why. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Is
Alex? Did you learn nothing over the past 5 years?
I guess what I'm saying is clearly he could not say anything about what's going on there, and it's an interesting nod. If only because I'm surprised that this news would have penetrated to someone at the White House, given how small of a developer it is. And so I think what it shows to me is that he or someone on his staff is paying attention to the industry, and it would be hard for me to imagine that wouldn't be in part because of what's happening at Activision Blizzard. And so it's interesting.
Is it that vaping senator who got ousted for
no
for
he
buying
would not
video
give
games?
a shit about. He is not a union guy. I can guarantee you.
Video games only like 13 people at the studio.
Yeah, no, it's not a big studio, but it's more about the press.
Good stuff.
Yes, 100%. And hopefully Activision Blizzard's next. They're right on the cusp. Yeah, you can do it.
There's been a lot of stuff surrounding that, by the way. I don't know if you've been seeing.
I have. It's too hard to follow like what's actually new and what's just like people memeing and like what is actual news out of it and like movement and what is just it's still going on.
Check out Jessica Gonzalez's Twitter a little bit, and you can see. I'm
following her, and I'm like, is this just a meme? Are you unionized now? What is happening?
No, like the thing is, like, there's a bunch of like basically astroturfing going on of like people saying they work at Activision Blizzard trying to like take it over. It's basically union busting, but over social media. It's really weird. It's really weird.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Amazon 100%. Did a lot of that too during the unionization efforts at that warehouse.
Yep. Well, we got a couple light stories here. New PS5 covers and DualSense colors are coming. No.
Well, also from
not Dbrand. I mean, Dbrand has their own different shaped cover with like fan holes
with ventilation. Yeah.
And a Sony is just same stock shape, but you can get it in like a blue, a red, a black.
I was surprised
that
color. People were surprised at the price. Like I saw the price and I was like, yeah, that's what I bought.
They're,
about
they're
right.
cheaper.
Yeah.
Cheaper than the D brand ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
But
sounded-
D-brand ones have some more stuff in them.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
they're there's more R&D there, and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, the colors are nice. I don't care enough to like.
I don't remember.
I still want to like 3D print like Han Solo and Carbonite. Put that
That
on
would be pretty
my
great.
put that on my PS5.
I am tempted a little bit by that ostentatious hot pink DualSense, but I don't know.
Pretty
I don't
good.
think I'll go for it. It is it is so loud and bright that I'm kind of like I kind of love
It's
it.
cool. I know a bunch of people who are like, what are they, $55? I think
50. I
Oh.
think 50.
50.
Ish.
I-
Oh,
I know
I
some
thought you meant the DualSense, and I was like,
No,
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 no.
those are like
The-
75.
Yeah. I know some people who are like $55 for they're just pieces of plastic you stick on, and I can't believe they're charging that much. It's like, have you bought a phone case in the last 10 years? Like,
No, I saw that, and I was like,
it's a
oh,
lot of
okay.
money to like. People charge a lot. Should they? I don't know. I'm sure that their margins on those side plates are incredible, but like hard, like powdered plastic is pretty expensive no matter where you buy it now from companies. And so
Yeah.
I'm not surprised that they were that much. If anything, I'm surprised that they're not $100, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, there are going to be a cottage industry of like cheap covers that you can get places. So
Yeah.
whatever.
But
Or
any
hey, take it off and paint it yourself if you don't want to spend that much money.
well,
Figure it out. Get an
the thing is-
airbrush and go to town.
the people who are actually going to buy those things, they'll pay probably just about the ceiling for what they'll pay for that is probably pretty high, because
Maybe
like if you're willing to pay $50 for side panels, you're probably willing to pay more than that too.
yeah.
Because
You're
people
there
get
for the
weird.
aesthetic. Like
Yes.
yeah.
You're there so it looks good on like your streams or when you have people
Yeah.
over or whatever.
I wonder if this opens the door to them selling like a red PS5, a blue PS5, just like buy it with the cover on, and
Yeah.
I don't have a PS5, but if I had about $100 extra to spend on top of having a PS5, I would make a Neapolitan one.
I
That'd be
mean,
cute.
when you talk about custom ones like a Han Solo one, I think that's when you start to like it makes a lot of sense. Even the D brand ones, like I'm not going to do it because I don't display my PS5; it's behind my TV.
Yeah. But it could be good to get that extra airflow.
Yeah, I mean, whenever I say
Yes.
behind my TV, I feel like I also have to say very clearly, there's tons of airflow back there. It's not like
Sure.
shoved up against the wall. But the D brand ones are between the
something.
airflow and the LEDs and stuff on them. Those make more sense to me. But I don't know.
Yeah.
At the same time, I have a D brand phone case and it's fine. But they're like the like decal, I guess I would say, like the like things you
Stickers?
apply, the sticker that you put over it. It sucks. I don't like it at all.
Mhm.
It's got a lot of air bubbles and stuff in it, and not a lot. It has just enough air bubbles to be frustrating. And so I don't know. They're fine. They make their plastic is good, but
Well, yeah. So if you're interested in that, you can go to like Sony's website. I don't know, some websites, some stores will have them, but yeah, that'll be available in the new year. Also, quick news story: Tencent has acquired another game studio. Consolidation continues with Turtle Rock, creators of
Yeah.
Left 4 Dead and more recently Back 4 Blood.
And Evolve, everyone's favorite.
Evolve.
I like Evolve is my favorite Turtle Rock video game.
I didn't play enough of it to say that, but I did like Evolve.
I liked that game quite a lot, and I do not particularly like Back 4 Blood, and I don't like Left 4 Dead as much as most people.
Is Back 4 Blood or Left 4 Dead super popular in China? Like, I don't know.
No idea.
I don't think Tencent is limiting themselves to that kind of stuff.
It's true.
So yeah, but consolidation of the industry continues. If it helps Turtle Rock keep afloat and keep making stuff, that's good. It was a while since Evolve came out, and then between Evolve and Back for Blood, right?
Yeah, it
So-
was a
Yeah,
long time.
years and years.
Several
and
years. It's similar news. It was also announced this week that Embracer Group purchased Asmodee, which is one of the world's
Right.
largest board game
Mhm.
producers and
Right.
owners of Fantasy Flight Games, who we've talked about on this podcast before. So that was the even more interesting acquisition to me this week because Fantasy Flight has some interesting licenses for Embracer Group to pick up. It doesn't mean that
Embracer Group has some
Group-
interesting licenses for Fantasy Flight to
exactly.
use.
That's what I'm saying. The
Yeah.
back and forth there could be,
because
I mean, maybe you could make a pretty cool Saints Row board game. I don't know.
Darksiders, the board game.
Fantasy Flight is like Arkham Horror and stuff, right?
Yep.
And Star Wars.
Oh, right.
I mean, I don't think that means that they get some
Yeah.
ability to make Star Wars video games. That's different, completely different
Yeah,
licensing.
yeah.
But it is interesting that, and also Fantasy Flight is a company that has consistently kind of just repeatedly shoots themselves in the foot over and over and over again with their kind of ongoing games. The only one that I think is in really good place is Marvel Champions, which continues to be really good. But it's just an interesting thing to see. We'll see how I think it's going to, as much as I'm 50-50 on my opinions on Embracer Group, I actually think this is probably one of the best things that could have happened for Fantasy Flight specifically, because Asmodee has been a very poor owner, not handled most of their engagement with Fantasy Flight's catalog and community well at all. So I think Embracer Group is a little more, has their finger on the pulse of what people actually want a little bit more, even if sometimes that means going to 4chan to do or 8chan, whatever, to do Q&As with Nazis. But unfortunately,
Almost forgotten about that. Thank you.
yeah.
Shout out to Mark.
You know what I didn't realize until this week? I thought Embracer Group was like a shell company that was set up with capital to purchase THQ Nordic, but it's actually just to change their name to Embracer Group.
Yep.
I didn't realize that it was as simple as a name change.
Yeah. They're just embracing everything. But so we'll see how that stuff continues. Let's see. And last, there
I
was
added that,
an indie world showcase out of nowhere this week.
I know.
I
didn't
legitimately
see it.
had no idea.
I didn't see
I
it
had no
until
idea.
I saw people talking about it, and I was like, "What? There's an indie world showcase." But yeah, there's some indie world showcase. I recommend checking those out because I feel like they usually show off some really good games. Definitely some stuff that I'm interested in. I actually picked up one of those shadow dropped games called Dungeon Munchies, which looks very like it could be kind of fun, of dungeon crawling with also cooking. So we'll see. But
So
yeah, there's
that sounds kind of similar to like Battle Chef Brigade.
Yep, that's why I bought it, because I was like, is this like giving me the trailer definitely gave me Battle Chef Brigade vibes, which is
Cool.
good because I really liked that game.
Yeah. that game
But
rips.
yeah, there's some other cool games in there, some beloved indie games that are coming to Switch. I'm excited for Ollie Ollie World, which is the skateboarding game that I've liked other games in that series. So yeah, just
They're
check
hard.
it out if you like indie. Oh, I know, I'm bad at them.
Yeah.
And then there's an indie JRPG from the group from the Messenger, that team
Oh,
that
nice.
as a prequel to that, and it looked pretty good. So I'm excited. Give that a shot.
It's weird that they made a prequel to The Messenger because of like the way that game is set. Is that Sea of Stars?
Yeah.
The way that game, like the story in that game goes, it's weird that they made a prequel and it seems like a sequel. I feel like the end set up a sequel. I can't remember exactly, but that's weird to me.
Yeah.
I also saw
But it's like a
Omori.
completely different style of game.
Yeah. I also saw Omori is going to be coming there,
Yep.
which is great.
There was, Amori is coming, which I've been wanting to play. So there's a visual novel / rhythm game After Love EP, which looked really interesting and something I wanted to play. And Chicory's coming, came to Switch rather. So a lot of cool stuff that's coming on. There's a point and click train mystery game, which I'm like, ooh, intrigued, but
like a mystery on a train or a mystery about trains.
Oh, okay. Mystery on a train where you solve it's a detective game on a train. It's called Locomotive, and I am like, how hasn't that been a title for a game before? But it looked cute.
If you want mysteries about trains, may I recommend Friends at the Table, the most recent season. There's some weird train shit going on there.
Yeah,
it's real good.
So yeah, definitely something to check out if you're also somebody that uses your Switch as for a lot of indie titles, and some cool stuff that was showing on there.
All right. Well, it is late for me. It is 2:17 a.m., which means I am gonna end this podcast because in the middle of this, we maybe accidentally planned a D&D game.
Yeah, I don't
know if it's actually going to happen.
Yeah,
but we'll figure this out.
This weekend, but
okay. Well, then maybe we didn't. So okay, we got another hour. Let's just keep going. Let's keep this train rolling. Everyone, thanks for joining me on episode 203 on December 17th, 2021. I have been your host, Andre Cole, aka the Wet Gamer, aka your partner's favorite H. John Benjamin role. You can find me on Twitter at Coolslaw, COOLSL4W, or on Twitch, twitch.tv/Coleslaw, COLESL4W.
You got there.
Right, it's like, what do I got to say? Pat, where can people find you?
You can find me desperately searching for Salewa med packs in the woods map. Just
you're gonna get all our Tarkov listeners are gonna swarm to that spot and find you and just harass you.
That's not how it works. It's not how the matchmaking works. Relax, it's gonna be fine. I'll bring my friends. So. And you can find me at PJC Plays on Twitter.
Allison.
You can find me on Twitter at WRITERSERENYTY.
And Alex.
You can find me looking through the hashtag FF14 Endwalker spoilers tag, because now I'm free to look at that.
Okay, I saw The Matrix, and I need people with bigger brains than me to watch it and write about it so I can read about it and be like, oh, I see.
Very excited. I got to see Spider-Man before you, but you got to see The Matrix before me.
Mm-hmm. But I got to see The Matrix before you because you made a choice. Or was it The Illusion of Choice? Isn't it out now? I thought it came out today. It comes out. It's wait, what? Really? I thought it was out today.
No,
it's out. I guess it's out early in Japan, but it's no.
Yeah.
I have literally the earliest ticket I can get, and it's next Wednesday.
Yeah, I might get a Wednesday ticket myself.
I was just like, I can't wait.
Oh, I'm somewhat of a Wednesday ticketer myself.
Yeah. Don't even get me fucking started.
I fucking January fucking 7th.
I know.
Why? Sony is a Japanese company. What the fuck are they doing?
I know. It's ridiculous because that movie has so much in it that can be spoiled.
Yeah.
It's just they should not be doing this to you.
I, as someone who does not give a fuck about the MCU, I'm interested in seeing that movie because of my affection for the original.
Yeah. I'll DM you some stuff because
Sure. I'm not spoiler averse to that.
Yeah.
Next week is Christmas, when we would normally be recording. So we'll probably do something different. Maybe it'll be weird, or maybe it'll be late. I don't know. We'll figure something out. But until then, thank you for joining us. As always, love to have you here, listening to us talk about random bullshit. and we'll be back next week. Well, maybe we'll be back next week.
We'll be back in some capacity.
We'll be back eventually at some
We'll
point.
be somewhere. You
Even
can
if
find
I
us
have to
on the
just
internet.
record myself talking about something, for
Singing
40
Jingle
minutes,
Bells. It's
Nope,
Pat
I
singing
will
Jingle
not-
Bells
I will
on
not do
loop
that.
for 40
I
minutes.
will not do that. However, I will. I don't know. I'll talk about some obscure. I'll walk you through the startup procedure for a P-51 Mustang. How about that?
No, how about you walk us through Coheed and Cambria?
Oh Jesus!
That's-
I'm gonna need more than one episode for that. The Coheed and Cambria lore much more complicated than the startup procedure for a P-51 Mustang. I'm not even joking.
I have been thinking, like, should I get into Coheed and Cambria, like actually into
answer is
Coheed and
yes.
Cambria, but I don't know if I can. I don't know if I have the constitution for that.
You do.
But we'll
it's
see.
it's not
I'm
hard.
sure. I'm sure.
There's one comic
Anyway.
book one comic series. They find that's
Okay. Well, how many
Listen to the
lyrics do I
albums.
have to like actually listen to?
the point.
That's
You don't. It's
it's all
You
vibes.
just- yes. The music is mostly
Okay.
vibes. You can
Okay.
trace lyrics to events, and you go, "Oh, that's why he said that." But analyzing the lyrics is not going to get you anywhere. You just got to read the comic books, and then
Okay.
you go back and listen to the music and go, "Ah, now I understand."
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, in the meantime, stay wet, gamers, but stay warm in these cold winter months.
Bye.
I'm not even going to say. I'm not. No, this is on the end of my
So
recording.
did you
I'm gonna
just
stop
blow a
now.
kiss? Did you, Alex? What was that?
Oh,
Did I
instead
hear a
of
kiss
ha.
from your end? Oh, I
No.
heard a. I
Hershey's
think.
Kiss.
I think my computer was not using the NVIDIA broadcast for like it was using my mic, but it wasn't using NVIDIA broadcast.
Oh, yeah,
So
we'll see.
it might have some like extra sounds on there.
That's fine.
Ooh, gonna have to bring that down. I wonder if that's just because I'm okay. Whatever. That's Alex's problem for now.
Yeah,
It seems fine, but
it's
I
probably
think it's
fine.
just
It's probably fine.
there's too many audio levels to like. I don't know what Audacity is playing through right now. What is 203?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yep.
yeah, yeah.
And-
No, I'm going to send.
Yeah.
I'm going to send you 3 songs, and you
Okay.
listen to them. If you like them, I think
mean,
you should try it. But if you
I
don't
like-
end up liking them,
What is it called? I don't remember. There was it was one of their more recent albums, but I guess it wasn't like one of their themed
they have
albums.
one album that is not part of the story, and that's The Color Before the Sun. Fantastic
Yes.
album.
Yes, I listened.
Ripped.
Like I liked. There was like one song on there that I particularly liked, but like in general, I like that album.
I think if you
And
like that album, you probably would like them overall, because that album is very indicative of like their range and sort of spread, especially their more
Okay.
recent stuff. But still, yeah, I'm gonna pick 3 songs and send them to you.
I really liked "You Got Spirit, Kid."
Yep, great song.
Yeah, okay, well, I'll try it. I was like, well, if I finish the Cosmere, then I have to get into Coheed and Cambria.
That's the
then-
thing, is it used to be a nightmare to get into Coheed. When I got into back in my
Oh.
day,
Mhm.
it was like there were like 4 or 5 different comic series that all kind of overlapped and all kind of had inconsistencies with how they presented the story. And that only covered about a third of the whole story, and then you had to get into analyzing lyrics. So it was a lot of like, I spent many nights on forums talking to people about like, oh well, he says this, so that means that this can't be true, and it was rough. But now there's just a comic called The Amory Wars. If you want to go real deep, there's a prequel novel that you can read, but otherwise, like, that comic covers 5 of their 8 albums that are tied to the story, and then there's like, or 9 now, and then the other stories are much easier to find like breakdowns of, from, because Claudio has actually like given in liner notes and stuff, like the overview of the stories.
I'm I might be ahead of you in Elantris now.
Maybe
Like,
I'm almost halfway through it.
Okay, so yeah, I'm about 36%. So you've been powering through. So yeah, I'm
I hit a point
behind you,
where
but
you're gonna pass me, but I hit a point where I could actually like read it for more than 5 or 6 pages at a time. For a
Yeah.
while there, it was just like,
yeah.
man, this is rolling so slow.
Mhm.
The only things that
Well-
I don't like about it, I think you read the passage about the Scions and like them being a true expression of God's love or whatever.
I think I read that.
I read that
like,
part and
tonight,
my eyes almost rolled all the way around in my skull because I was like, get your Mormon ass out of here. Shut the fuck up. And then the other thing that I don't like about that book is the way that God, what is his name? The prince. Why am I blanking on the main prince that's in Elantris who's building the like society there or whatever.
Harry.
It bugs me that people have no reason whatsoever to trust him, and then he's like, but what if we built a society together where no one had to feel pain or whatever? And then they're like, you're right, I'm going to devote my life to you now. It's like, dude, you need higher standards for the people that you just throw your all of your support behind. Come on, man. He said like 4 words to you and now you're like swearing fealty to him. But I think that comes down to the fact that it's Sanderson's first published novel, so it's very much like it. I think he struggled to build up, like to really show that kind of build in faith and respect for a character from other characters, and so I can forgive it. And he does a really good job of that stuff with the stuff that's happening outside of Elantris. So it's clear that he has the chops to tell a compelling compelling character relationships.
I mean, with the stuff in Elantris, you are dealing with people who are like, they're just like, well, my life's fucking over. Everything's misery and terrible, and this guy's like actually like kind of, I don't know, he seems like he'll give me purpose. So like, there's like something there, but yeah, there is like this all like happened very quickly.
Yeah. I think the concept is so interesting that I can look past a lot of the shortcomings. And as long as he doesn't get too much on the missionary work is good, actually bullshit angle that he's kind of veiling with a couple of things, I can get over the religious tones.
You'll have I hear halfway through is where it gets like good. So
yeah, and I already think it's gotten a lot better. So I'm gonna finish it.
Sanderson, not directly. Well, yes, directly, but not the whole way through. Has anybody else been watching Wheel of Time?
Sam.
I know Sam.
I'm gonna watch it.
I think Jeff was, but I don't know if any of you were.
My dad is really hot on it, so he was also telling me I need to watch it. So I think I'll probably like it.
I asked Jeff if I should read Wheel of Time, and he said, "Be kind to yourself. Don't read Wheel of Time."
yeah.
But I might check out the show. But
it sounds like it is not. It only ends in pain. I think that series is a victim. Victim is the wrong word because it's not like Jordan needs everyone's pity and sympathy, but it's a book series that was written in a time where there was an enormous amount of like debate and understanding around gender studies emerging, and it is of a it feels much older than it is with how it approaches the subject of gender. And so it makes it feel like it is not at all modern, and it's hard to accept it because of when it was written. I'm not making excuses for it either. I'm just more saying I think that that's part of like how it got to this place of kind of being bullshit. But it sounds like maybe the show is going to take
the show kind of addresses that and like alters that to make it not as binary.
The show also differs from the book almost immediately in a very major way.
I think I saw
So I'm not going to bother with the books. I'm just going to watch show. I finally got the nod from an Expanse super fan that I should just watch the show because it's way different than the books too. So I'm excited to finally watch that, because I've been wanting to watch The Expanse for so long, and I was forcing myself not to because I felt like I needed to read the book. And then I read half of the first book and it was awesome, but it's so dense.
I would like to watch The Expanse, but I think it's like a show that Karen will not care about or like at all, because she just sci-fi and like fantasy is like very hard for her to get into.
One of the main characters for almost the entire show, except for the last season where they dropped him, is a sex pest too. It didn't come out until the last year, but that's like you basically have to watch it knowing that he's a piece of shit, which is far less difficult than having to have been one of his targets, but it still blows ass that it took until the end of the show for them to realize that he's a piece of shit.
So,
yeah.
Damn.
But still, I gotta watch it because it sounds like it's very up my alley.
I mean,
and the book was
not watch it.
I mean, I haven't.
I know. Yes, I know. I am behind on Riverdale. I need to catch up on Riverdale.
I also have a bunch of Marvel shows to watch, and I want to rewatch Matrix.
There's too many everything to enjoy.
Yep.
Anyways, I'm gonna.
All right. Good talking to you, Allison. Have a good one.
Bye.
I am uploading my file as we speak. 960 megabytes. 999. 1004.6.
After you disconnect, I'll just tell Alex the main Spider-Man thing that it's not even a spoiler, but it's one of those, like, I don't want to say it's better if you see it in the theater.
Willem Dafoe hang dong, and everyone's like, holy shit, what the fuck? Why is it like a foot long?
God.
They're like the stories from some movie where they're like, Willem Dafoe's like, yeah, I'll do the nude scene, and then the director was like, absolutely not. That is too big.
Did I say the Mortal Online thing last week? I can't remember. So I tried out Mortal Online 2 because it's fascinating to me. I haven't talked about it in the cast. I don't know if I ever will. I don't know how much I'm even going to play it. It's like this super complex, really heavy. Imagine like EVE Online, but for fantasy, and it's mashed like EVE Online mixed with Skyrim and a fantasy game, or and an MMO. Anyway, there's a nudity option you can turn on, and I was like, I'm a fucking adult. I'm turning on the nudity option. And when you turn on the nudity option, you go to create your character. It is just like, that's the dong right there, and it's enormous and flopping around. And I was like, okay, I might turn off the nudity option. I'm not afraid of dong, but
that's a lot of dong.
It's a lot, and I can't take this character creator seriously. And then I couldn't get it to like save the setting to turn it off. And so there's just this nude man animating gently, like heaving huge penis, and I'm like, and I'm like, I really would like to figure out how. So I ended up just like Alt F4ing the game and restarting it, and then I finally got the setting to save the turn.
Like, go edit off the INI file.
It was like more intense than Conan Exiles.
What even is this? Okay, well, now I'm looking at Mortal Online screenshots. What the fuck even is this?
It's something. It's something. It's
it looks like
I don't know,
PS2 game or some shit.
The visuals look pretty good when you're actually playing it, but they definitely are not. If you're looking at Mortal Online 1, that does look like a PS2 game.
Okay, maybe that's the problem. Oh, Mortal Online 2. Okay,
yeah,
never mind.
It seems good for what I mean. It's just very crazy. It was one of those things where I kept looking at it for weeks, and I like had to know, and so I bought it. As stupid as it was to spend money on it, because I'm probably not going to play a ton of it, but it's interesting. It's like there's like 400 different skills in the game, and you level skills by doing the thing. And any item you can craft. It's not a stick and rock game, it's an MMO, but any crafting that you do, like let's say you want to make a shield, and you have a pattern that's like round shield, and that's all it's called. and then you're like, well, what do you want to make the shield part out of? What do you want to make the buckling out of? What do you want to make the strap out of? So like you could make like a bone shield with wood buckling and cloth straps or whatever, like it, and then all of that changes the stats of the items. So and there's like millions of combinations of different stuff you can put on. So the point being, and it's a small enough game that the community is small enough that it actually is like, oh, someone figured out how to make a really fucking great sword, and they're not telling you how they did it. And so now everyone else is like, how is that guy's sword so good? And I think it's kind of fun from that perspective.
Sure.
But it also requires like thousands and thousands of hours to become the guy that makes the crazy good sword. So it's not practical. And it also has full permadeath, like not permadeath, but because you keep your skills, but it's like kind of like a Tarkov. It has full, like, as soon as you leave the city, one contiguous world, but as soon as you don't even have to leave the city, actually. Someone can just kill you in the city. It's just the guards will attack them. So it's very much multiplayer Skyrim in the sense that anybody can be killed at any time, and then they can take your shit. And like I ran around in the starter area where they have the PvP disabled and fell off of a cliff and died, broke my legs and died. And then I had to go find my body, and it was like really hard because it doesn't tell you where your body is. You just have to kind of try to navigate back to it. And then I found it, and then I had now I'm carrying around my own head because I pulled my head off of my corpse, which I could eat if I wanted to.
Is that okay? Last thought is I got Karen started on Skyrim the other night.
Hell yeah.
And as soon as she got to like any dialogue where she's like, I don't understand, this is boring, I don't understand, and just like buttoning through all the dialogue and then just like running into the town and then like picking up every item she could find, like, why can't I walk? Like,
that's very funny.
Carrying too much, I'm like trying to explain. I'm just like, this is okay. And she was like, I don't understand anything that's going on. Like, you're just buttoning through all the dialogue. She's like, what's a Wolfric? I'm like, that's the guy's name. She put it in Japanese, but she's just like, she doesn't give a shit about fantasy. She's like, she sees like the fantasy like names or words, she doesn't, she's like, whatever, I don't give a shit. I don't know if she's going to keep playing, but I'm going to try to encourage her to, because I think if she actually like tries it, she'll like it. But
you should get her into Mortal Online too.
I don't have to pay for Skyrim though, because it's on Game Pass.
True.
I've already paid for Game Pass. So anyway, good talking to you. Catch you later. No D&D tomorrow. Got it.
Yeah, that's what we're going to plan on, I think. Yeah. I'm trying to find a way to gently break it, but
yeah.